take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record albums have their own hidden sound.
This is a special question. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana, some call it sensimedia, some call it lamb's bread, and some people call it ganja.
Welcome to another edition of the Adam Dunn Show. I'm your host, Adam Dunn.
I'm your co-host, Mitch Shinasa.
And we got
with
a
us
full
as
studio.
seldom, is KTI, the champ,
struggling to roll a joint back there.
It sounds good this week, though.
It does. And Mr. Soul, though Mr. Soul not pictured on camera, is this for the purpose of drama? Are we going to do like a slick pan?
I did not request to not be on camera.
Yeah. He doesn't have
a double negative.
Is it because you don't have your shades on? Maybe you want to do. Are you going to do a slick pan and reveal? Sure. Hold on. Let's.
We have no idea where the picture is.
We can't see it, and you can't see it.
Is that where the camera? Are you supposed to look at the camera?
No, you're not supposed to look at the camera.
However, only in a movie.
Lime Shave doesn't want to show us on camera this week.
Isn't
that weird?
It was showing it. It clicked.
And now it's not.
Try alt tabbing around, but either way, KTI, if you want to give us a subtle pan, I got it on the. I see Soul here. We're good. We're panned. We're good.
Oh, hello.
Perfect pan.
Hello, Mr. Soul.
Perfect pan.
Perfect pan. Chat room's heating up. Jeez.
Lord, have
new
mercy.
people, old people.
Last week was slow.
Gather around.
Over 60 and climbing.
It doesn't exist.
Come gather around.
That's fine.
People.
That's good.
Weird.
That's good. All right. So,
we were going to talk today about what you need to know before you buy seeds, or do you not want to jump right into?
We're going to do news.
We're going
to do news. Then we're going to shout out to
It's all about me. There I go, making it all about me again.
Then we'll get into it. No, we'll do this.
Don't you worry. It is all about you.
It is.
Once we get past our little normal things that we normally do. Last week we didn't do it because I couldn't do news without you, Mitch. It didn't work.
Didn't have the bifocals.
Well, yeah, and KTI just sort of
he only emails the news to me.
He was like, "Oh yeah, I did it," but didn't tell me until after we were off the air. I was like, "Did you even do the news?"
You ready to play the news?
I had it already.
Play the news.
Great.
You guys are breaking your own rule. I'm just gonna.
What?
He's doing okay. When he gets on air, he kind of like mumbles.
Oh sure.
Oh yeah, I mumble and
We're trying not to be.
So don't mumble, and you.
I do mumble.
Kind of just.
It's the main
sit back here.
Main thing and not being loud.
Well, no, you could be a little louder. You're being a little ridiculous now.
I'm not supposed to be loud.
I'm
supposed to pretend it's
you're
NPR.
Ridiculous.
You're listening to the Adam Dunn Show on NPR.
Sounds way better.
Right? Okay. Can we get news? The opposite
are we
of
ready
NPR.
For it?
Yeah.
Yes, buddy.
I was just stalling.
I've been waiting for it.
Opposites.
Hey, let's go news.
Quote, jurors would look at us like we are crazy. Larger number of Texas marijuana offenses dismissed. Out of Austin by the Associated Press, prosecutors in the most populated areas of Texas in recent years have dismissed a significantly larger number of marijuana offenses involving smaller amounts of the drug, according to a newspaper analysis. In the 5 most populous counties, Bexar, Dallas, Harris, Tarrant, and Travis, the rate of dismissals has risen since 2011, according to the review by the Austin American-Statesman. Data kept by the Texas Office of Court Administration shows dismissals are increasing fastest in North Texas. Just 9% of cases were dismissed in Tarrant County 5 years ago, but last year about a quarter of them were dropped. In Dallas County, the percentage of dismissals rose from 18% to 41% over the same period. Well, 41% is pretty big. Dismissing 41%.
For a place like that,
yeah. For Texas, sure. Statistics show that there appears to be a similar trend occurring statewide, but that trend doesn't necessarily reflect an easing of enforcement measures. The number of new misdemeanor marijuana cases filed statewide has stayed largely the same. So that's a good representation. That's good. Good news for Texas. And if DAs in Texas are getting softer on prosecuting pot, people are obviously wising up, right?
Well, yeah, that was one of those states where you thought, nah, it'll never happen.
Never.
And now it's freaking seems more than obvious. You're like, of course it will. Just because it's such a money-driven state and people there must be just banking up on those.
Texans love going to rec dispensaries here. I know that. Tons of them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people, even the pipe companies that we know from Texas and stuff, they say that the following is very big out there. It's just dangerous. So as long as they're
Texans love danger, though.
Yeah, they do. We love the danger.
News.
We love danger and weed.
News.
Danger and weed.
Hey,
Do Coloradans regret legalizing marijuana? New poll says voters see pot as a boon to the state. Politicians and anti-pot groups are saying Coloradans have buyer's remorse when it comes to legal marijuana, but a new poll finds the opposite is true. With the November election less than 2 months out, the 9 states voting on recreational and medical marijuana initiatives this year are looking to Colorado residents for guidance and perspective. Each side of the legalization debate has its own narrative and spin on how Coloradans feel about legal cannabis nearly 4 years after voting overwhelmingly to legalize it, and nearly 3 years after implementing those recreational sales. But how do Colorado voters really feel about still developing consequences of saying yes to Amendment 64 in November 2012? A new poll suggests Colorado voters do not have buyer's remorse. The cannabis has learned exclusively. A majority of Colorado voters say legal cannabis has had a positive impact on the state and its economy, and they would not support a repeal of Amendment 64 if it were on the ballot this year, according to a new poll commissioned by the Pro-Legalization Marijuana Policy Project and conducted by the Democratic firm Public Policy Poll. That's good.
Right, say that last sentence one more time.
It's starting to get a little bit.
So 51% of the respondents said they would oppose a measure to repeal Amendment 64, 36 said they would support it, and 13% said they weren't sure. So that's good.
That's not what I was asking.
No, I'm just reading more.
He wanted to hear that. He wanted to hear that.
News.
Hey, news.
Colorado Springs mayor urged Arizonans not to legalize pot. See, this is the opposite. These are stupid people. Phoenix, the mayor of Colorado's second largest city, is urging Arizonans not to legalize recreational use of marijuana, even as he admits voters in his state want to keep their nearly 4-year-old law. Colorado Springs Mayor John Suthers, who used to be Attorney General John Suthers, if I remember correctly, said the law approved by voters there has had dire consequences, including increased teen use and more criminal activity, also zombies. He said there's probably less support for the measure than when it was approved in 2012, but that is not true, because we just saw the result. But he says it still remains popular, but he said people in law enforcement, people running a city, things like that, they're going to see the neighborhood problems. They're going to see the increase in DUIs. They're going to see the school problems and things like that. A lot of very specific.
All the things that we actually know.
Yeah.
The basic message being, ignore the science, I know better, so listen to what I want to do.
Oh, they brought him in and a police officer from Colorado. So those are the two people, obviously, who are going to give a really even-handed take on the whole thing.
Yeah, and like, it's amazing because, once again, science is never really brought into the actual fold where it's like taken seriously. It's just news.
Hey kid,
what's going on with
news?
All right, we need another one?
Sure.
Two more.
Come on, keep going.
I'm trying to make sure this sounds good for you. Sorry, I'm actually doing my job for once.
Colorado medical pot law poised to add PTSD as a qualifier. That one's been a long fucking time coming.
Jesus.
Right?
Most obvious thing in the world.
Right?
Like, it's like almost like picture. It's like you couldn't even.
Why did pot use explode after Vietnam? Because you had a lot of people coming back from Vietnam. And they brought the pot with them, so that didn't hurt. Marijuana pioneer Colorado is poised to add post-traumatic stress disorder to its medical marijuana program, joining 18 other states that consider PTSD a condition treatable by pot. A panel of state lawmakers voted 5-0 Wednesday. That's great.
That's good.
To endorse the addition of PTSD to Colorado's 2000 medical pot law. The vote doesn't have legal effect. It's just a recommendation to the full legislature, which resumes work in January. But the vote indicates a dramatic shift for a state that has allowed medical pot for more than a decade, but hasn't endorsed its use for PTSD. That's, for such a long time.
Endorsed its use for what?
PTSD. Which makes sense.
The first time I heard
Spell that out for us, kid. What does that stand for?
PTSD.
You really love peeking that thing, huh?
Well, no. So here's the thing with live stream.
I don't need to know.
Okay, then eat shit. Don't call me out because it sounds good.
Oh.
9 cannabis clubs ordered to.
All right.
9 cannabis clubs ordered to cease and.
Done. I'm done. Just don't talk shit because remember, I have the trigger. That's all I'm saying. That's all I have to say. I have trigger.
He exacted revenge on you in the middle of the kid, you're out of control.
This is what happens.
See, he's the Mr. Blonde of this group.
I don't know what that means.
What?
I don't know what that means.
You didn't get a Reservoir Dogs reference?
No.
Bring it on.
Sorry.
Oh,
Continue.
God. Real
I
kid.
can't even continue now. 9 cannabis clubs ordered to cease and desist in Colorado Springs. He really didn't get this is the whole pull the
Mr.
trigger
Pink.
metaphor.
Yeah.
Mr.
You're
Pink.
the Mr. Pink of the situation, obviously. That goes without saying. He's the Mr. Blonde.
Now, wait a second.
Yes, obviously.
I don't know what's going on.
What?
Never seen Reservoir Dogs, bro.
So pull the trigger. How does that even have any relevance?
Well,
to you?
because you've been saying it to me for the past 2 fucking years of my life. So now it's a completely
never seen
different
that
reference to me than it is to you, but it's still funny to me.
How could you have never seen
It's
it?
funny.
And because it is pretty much universal, like electronic term in radio and stuff like that. Like it's not like you invented using that in this
No,
aspect.
Reservoir Dogs did.
Reservoir Dogs. Yeah. Did you see the movie?
No.
The answer is no.
no
But he
idea.
laughs at the joke because in every
It's 'cause
context
it's a
he's
good
heard
joke,
it used
'cause it's a good
before,
joke.
it was
It's funny.
appropriate to laugh
Yeah.
at it, so he
Yeah.
learned to do that.
Yeah.
You should see the movie. It
Is it
would
good?
really put the picture together.
Really? Is it good? It's
You've got this
Reservoir
little
Dogs.
chunk in your
It's like
mind.
possibly the best.
Wait,
film.
let me just say, I'll make you happy.
Put it up on Netflix some night.
It's way better than the
won't
shit you tried to
regret
tell
it.
me to watch.
You know what? Hold on. Wait. Then we're going to talk about this really quickly before I
We
leave.
got to do shout-outs.
We can do shout outs in 2 minutes. Narcos, you were right and I was wrong. I'm actually almost through the first season only because I haven't been trying to watch it all at once because then I get pissed off. I don't have anything to watch.
Right.
But it is really good.
Right.
I just had to get past the first episode.
Yeah.
You don't like Stranger Things? What the fuck is wrong with you? Dude, it's got like it's
got-
one of the best shows of this time right now.
got, like-
It's got like the Goonies in it, everything from 1980s movies. I mean, if you don't like Stranger Things, you're fucking out of your mind.
It's not as good as I thought it was.
If you don't like
And they
it,
started mentioning MK Ultra. Did you get that far?
No,
if you
No,
don't
see,
like
you
it,
didn't even get to the point. So the whole reason that show is happening is because of MK Ultra, and he didn't even get to that point to realize, like, okay, maybe this is kind of cool.
They're saying you're
Nope.
way too loud in the chat room.
Am I loud?
yeah, we've
Sorry.
been telling you that here too.
I got yelled at when I suggested it. So.
Well, it's because we're on the same.
A big shout out to Way to Grow. We have some ADS exclusive Way to Grow specials. Way DS.
Wait.
PL Lights NXT2 double-ended 1,000
Wait,
watts.
yeah.
This is going to be the 120 volt
that a big
or the
booty?
240 volt. Total, the complete fixture, obviously with the reflector, the bulb. MSRP on those is $649.99. Go in there and say you want the ADS price. That's going to be $415 out the door. So that's from $650 down to $415. The other thing we got for you cheapskates, Phantom DE open reflector, the 277 volt 1,000 watt. MSRP on those obviously $589.99. ADS price on those is going to be $325. Head on down to Way to Grow. Tell them you want the special on the Phantom or the PL lights. If you're looking to restock with double-ended, it's a good time and a hell of a deal. I mean, that's pretty much half price, going from $590 down to $325 on the Phantom DE. That's hard to shake a stick at. And obviously, all these special deals are while supplies last. So if you miss them, and then you snoozed, and we told you should go. Go to Way to Grow. Go to waytogrow.net. Check out where the stores are. All 7 locations.
Good job.
Now, Adam's going to tell you his favorite one is Platte Valley, but the newest, Platte River, excuse me, but the newest one, which is not new anymore, because it was new when I started on the show like 3 years ago. But the newest one is in Silverthorne.
Oh yeah. I think it still is.
I think at this point it's the least old one. It's not the newest anymore.
Thank you.
And that'll be all available for you at waytogrow.net. Big shout out to Incredibles Edibles.
Oh, best
Good one.
edibles here on this side of the universe that I know.
Sure, I don't know that there are other ones on the other side of the universe that are better though.
Could be.
Could be. We can't speak to that. But on this side of the universe, we've tried them all. Can't beat Incredibles. Mr. Soul, you've gotten considerably more Colorado-fied since you've been here. Have you had an Incredibles bar yet?
I have not had because I hesitate to have any edibles now. I've had bad experiences with them. They don't give me the kind of high that I got when I was in college and I crushed up a joint in some cookie batter and put it in an oven.
Oh,
and
that's
ate
no.
it.
We'll get you an
You know,
Incredibles bar that's
all
right
the,
for
all
you.
the edibles seem to give me like this low-grade headache or something. But
We-
maybe it's just not for me.
Yeah, we'll see.
Obviously, the popularity with others
And the flavors are out of
speaks
control.
for itself.
The flavors are out of control. Maybe you're not ready for a Fireberry bar.
I wasn't
But you
ready
can
last
handle-
year for some things that I'm. Yeah, and that's
true.
the point, isn't it? You were
true.
saying how I've adapted, evolved.
Exactly.
and,
That's why I could have.
I
It's
tried
not, it's
to
not
tell
there
you,
yet.
know, that it's
You're clearly
the
still.
environment's effect on me.
You've gone through the neonatal stage, but
My
now
phenotype
obviously
has changed,
Yeah.
even though the genotype remained the same.
remains the same. And of course, big shout out to Build the Soil. Jeremy's out there, obviously busy time of the year for him, as everyone is getting ready to plow, re-amend, get everything going back in. We just got tagged a really nice post by a fan on Instagram today who made the switch. He's made the switch to organics thanks to ADS and Build a Soil.
Nice.
And we've seen a lot of it by now, but it's still cool every single time that someone says, that's it. I believe it's
badass.
It's good quality. It's what I want. And we're seeing a lot more of it, so we love that. Big shout out to everybody over at Dark Horse Genetics. Dark Horse Concentrates of still cranking stuff out. Recreational flowers, actually, thankfully, right around the corner. In months to come. Flower. Finally, we can be putting out the Dark Horse flower. A lot more accessibility on the seeds. Exciting things happening with Dark Horse, obviously international. So you can find on most of the worldwide seed banks now a lot of the new Dark Horse lines popping up. So check them out all over the place, and especially at our good friends at seedsherenow.com.
Seeds here now.
Seeds here now.
Seeds here now.
Seeds here now. Everybody here loves Seeds Here Now. I got a message from our buddies at Seeds Here Now that I'm going to read to all of y'alls. September deals: save 15% on any pack of Snow High seeds, TH Seeds, Crockett Family Farms, and Imperial Genetics. Spend over $150 and get a freebie by Ghost Genetics. Buy one, get one free on Dr. Blaze seeds. Buy any 2 packs of Mosca seeds and get a free 5-pack of Mosca Mix. Get a free 3-pack of Tester C with any purchase of La Plata Labs. And this past week at seedsherenow.com, we had the TSK drop, our buddy 2, who was also on the show last week, the new Ethos Collective drop, a Canorado drop, and the Relentless Genetics drop. And next week, there will be an Unknown Prophet drop, and hopefully something fresh from Archive as well. You can find them, and of course, Brothers Grimm at seedsherenow.com. And we got, of course, big shout out to our buddies over at Growstone. Are you using Growstones, Mr. Sol? I know you like those guys.
Absolutely, they're fantastic. I love how the product's really light, and it comes in all those different sizes, and you just select the size for whatever it is you're doing. Super people to work with too.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that we've ever had any dealings with them, they've been over the top, happy to help, and super.
Great product, great team behind it, and I think we got Dr. Paula coming next week, 9:30.
Really?
That's it. Yeah. Wow, that lined up. I forgot that was next week. Am I wrong on the date, KTI?
I want to say it's 20th of October.
Okay, maybe I was wrong on the date.
Yeah, I want to say it's October. We have Dr. Paul.
Okay, well, we'll look into that a little more. Either way, we still love him, and we're looking forward to getting her.
It's going to be awesome either way.
Yes, sir. And, of course, big shout out to our buddies over at Veg and Bloom. You talked to them recently, didn't you, Adam?
Yeah, sort of. Saw him at the last show. Up in
Are they still vegging and blooming?
You're still vegging and blooming.
Vegging kaboomin'.
Up in Alaska.
It's what they do, right?
Obviously, you can check them out at hydroponic-research.com. Veg and Bloom is our favorite. If you're going to go with a non-organic system because you need to keep it sterile, because you're on a huge scale, because you have good reasons for it, then you need to go with Veg and Bloom. You need to go with the powder. Don't pay for all the water that you're going to get in your bottled nutrients. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't get tricky recipes that are going to be different depending on who's running the garden. Just go with the Veg and Bloom. Get it right at hydroponic-research.com. You're going to be good to go with consistent, quality, really impressive results.
Yeah, and you give them your water. You get a water.
You give them a water sample, and they'll mix it up
Just
for
keep
you.
that baby up there at the lower edge.
And on that note, now the shout-outs are done.
You got the lighter.
He's here in the ring right now,
This
Mr.
man,
Soul.
he knows the drill.
Mr. Soul, usually I type up an outline. Mr. Soul showed up with his own outline.
How could you write somebody else's stuff? So that
indeed,
doesn't really
indeed.
seem logical to me.
Indeed.
Am I being too logical?
No.
Too compartmentalized?
Well, that's a little. Usually,
engineering
the Adam Dunn show doesn't run on basic engineering logic. If you haven't noticed
Right.
yet.
So let me straighten that out right away. First thing, clear a few things, clear the air. No, I mean, I had been thinking for a while, and that's why I reached out to you. I said, people are buying seeds and talking about them online, and I observe these conversations sometimes, and I say to myself, and it's almost like there's not a rhyme or reason to what they're doing. So I wanted to have like a real frank and easy conversation. Everybody knows I'm a scientist, but today my goal is to put this in like super layman's terms that anybody with any kind of background just have to be a human being to understand the terms I'm going to put this into.
And hopefully it'll be a conversation people can reference for, the ages to come. Another classic soul production.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, hopefully this will be, I guess what I see is there are, like right now we're going in like this crazy, almost like the Cambrian explosion of cannabis genetics, but it's not the first one. And it's it coincides with this great consumption of cannabis genetics, or at least buying of these seeds, whether you're growing them or not, etc.
Right.
And there's something to the collectability of it, and it's, I'm not going to call it a bubble, but I'm going to say it's certainly quite in vogue right now.
Okay.
And it's not always going to be. So right now, in previous generations, right, the same issues were the case. People learned, but they forgot it. A whole bunch of new people involved in it now.
Oh, yeah.
And these people will learn it.
Well,
right
remember,
here.
I'm back from the future or whatever. I was here last year, and it was exactly on the date that Marty had
Oh, that's right. I forgot that.
teleported
Yeah.
into 2015. Remember that? I think it was, October 15th, right? If I recall.
Pretty close.
Anyway, so close enough. And, well, here it is. I just wanted to say, hey, I put myself in the shoes of somebody who doesn't know a lot about buying seeds, or maybe they even do. And they kind of have an idea what they want. I think anybody starting out looking for seeds is obliged to ask themselves what it is that they want, what kind of plant, what are the characteristics you're looking for. There's a few different categories to break that down into. Ease of growing. How tall will they get? Are you going to grow them indoors or outdoors? All these questions that you're asking yourself. And I wonder sometimes when I see the conversations of people bragging about, I got this crossed with that, and I think, well, what does that mean? And why did that person pick that? And did they ask themselves, what was the breeder's intention when he put those two things together? And what is the probability that I'm going to get a plant out of the seeds, out of my 10 seeds in the package that looks like the one on the package that they gave as a representation of what I'm supposed to get? And those kinds of questions have to be answered. And that's going a little too deep right now. I wanted to go back to basics and say, ask yourself what it is that you want, right? And then the next question is, well, how am I going to choose seeds? What criteria am I going to use to pick the seeds that will get me what I want? Is there an existing strain? I think is the first question that you should say to yourself before trying some unknown or new strain, which a lot of people are buying because they sound racy or whatever. There's a gee whiz factor to, strawberry shortcake crossed with vanilla pudding pie or something.
Sure.
I don't know. People think there's a concept, a misconception anyway, that in the mind, I think of the person buying the seeds that it works like putting things in a blender and it's just going to come out like this homogeneous
perfect mix of the two.
And it's a smoothie, and all my seeds are going to look like some kind of a blend of the other two. It doesn't work that way, except in extremely specific cases, and I'm going to discuss that in layman's terms in a minute. So here we are at the beginning saying, what do I want? How am I going to pick? By which criteria am I going to pick the seeds so that I do get what I want? And first, before you do that, you have to kind of have an idea of what breeding seeds entails, what the results came from, or what results would be expected from certain combinations. And we have an advantage, I think, of understanding what's going on because we're Americans. It's we're hybrids, we're mutts or whatever you want to call it, and most of us here, unless your parents came straight from another country and they were both from the same town in the country that they came from, and so on. So to start from there and say, as an American, it's easy to kind of look around the world and say, close your eyes and tell me what a picture in your mind of a Chinese person looks like.
Sure.
Give me in your mind a picture of what an Irish person looks like. Give me a picture in your mind of what their child would look like. It's pretty much like a blender when those two things are happening. You're taking very pure races. In China, if you walk up and down the streets, do you see people that look much different from Chinese people? I mean, if they were, born there and so on. It's a limited gene pool over a very long period of time producing
There's like
a certain
116 ethnic groups in China, though.
No. But in general, I don't mean to generalize. What am I being not PC? Come on.
No, but
bear
I mean, they
with me
look
here.
different,
I'm
dude.
trying to
They
put
look
this in
different.
layman's terms. In general, if you say picture in your mind a Chinese person,
Sure.
don't people in China look like Chinese people?
Sure, of course.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. As you African
especially
people look like
as
African
compared
people.
to Irish people.
Of course,
Right.
and that's the
Yeah,
distinction I'm
yeah,
trying
exactly,
to make.
especially.
Okay, so with that in mind, and we all have mothers and fathers. That's something that we can absolutely relate to, and we got half our genes from our mother, half our genes from our father. And so you are now a person who has the combined genes of those two people. If they were from two...
But you express different things. Sometimes you look more
Of course,
like
you're not
mom
identical to
and-
your next sibling,
Yeah.
unless you're identical twins.
Let me dwell on that first mixing of two dissimilar races and the fact that the results are very predictable. In other words, the Irish and African cross, we're going to have a child who's less dark than the African father, but darker than the Irish mother, and so on. And it will kind of work like a blender in that case. And if they had 10 kids, they would all be pretty much falling into that phenotype, okay? Now, those children, if they met in their lives as they become mature and meet a mate, that person is a similar cross of, some two dissimilar races, let's say Portuguese and American Indian.
Sure.
Okay? Now, their kids, having crossed these four dissimilar things, start to be random. Like, it's not a blender anymore, it's a lottery machine, and it's spitting out numbers, and it's certain combinations will give genotypes that will then become phenotypes later. And if they have 10 kids, they're all going to be different. Have you ever seen American parents who have children and they have 3 daughters, and one has red hair, one has blonde hair, and one has brown hair?
Sure.
Those are the kinds of things that happen when you mix polyhybrids, which is what those combinations
And sort of the interesting,
And
I feel like,
I'm sorry.
counter side, the other side of that coin, right?
Let me address something.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill that before you even say it.
Okay.
I know that you mentioned to me once before that there are people who feel like I'm saying polyhybrids are bad. I want to say they're not bad. If you have a polyhybrid female that is making all of the characteristics that you love and were seeking, that clone is very valuable to you and you should hang on to it. But to expect that the pack of seeds that she came from will give you sisters that look very much like her reliably is low if she comes from a polyhybrid background.
Lower, indeed.
Yes, much lower. Okay, and it's exponentially lower the more that
And
they
much
keep mixing.
higher if it's from, and that's
And that's something you need to know when you're getting the seeds, because there are people who will want to buy a pack of seeds where, wow, I'm throwing a dice into the middle of the roulette table or what. I'm
Sure.
mixing metaphors there. But you know what I'm saying? They want to take a chance. They're looking for something out of the ordinary. Now, for whatever reason, they're doing that. I think that it's important if you do that, you should ask yourself, what is this crazy special plant that I'm looking for? And is there already an existing strain I can buy a pack of seeds that will reliably give me that in all 10 seeds, or a large percentage of the seeds that are in that pack?
Sure.
And if you haven't answered that question, I think you're on some kind of a journey that, God bless you, do that, and if it makes you happy and fulfills your soul, wonderful.
I think a lot of people
But I
are
think
out
if you're in
there-
the business of growing marijuana and you have an operation where this is a cultivation operation, you want the reliability of being able to buy a strain where, hey, I'm going to throw 100 seeds down, 1,000 seeds down.
Sure.
I've got a guy doing 700 in Nevada right now. And you should see the pictures. It's like row after row of plants that are seedlings that look like clones. And that's what he wants. That's what I'd like to be able to provide to people.
Sure.
And that's my bent on this. And, there are plants that my A13 is a polyhybrid.
right.
A pack of those, people love the little pheno that you get in that for some reason. And I'm like,
Well,
God
there's,
bless you. I'll use the expression again. I'm an atheist, but God bless you. I'll
there's
use that
something to the
expression.
thrill of the hunt.
Yeah.
There's something to, you look at like supermodels, they're usually like polyhybrids, like 4 different, 6 different, 8 different ethnicities. Not everybody who's 8 different ethnicities is a supermodel.
No.
But you
it
have
can
these
come out of that,
opportunities
yeah.
for these very
Absolutely.
rare, unique mixes in humans and in plants. And I think that's when you have a lot of people who are looking for something signature, something different.
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of the
totally.
opposite of consistency is what some people are looking
As
for.
long as that's what you're looking for. I just want to make sure.
But if you're trying
that
to go
people
commercial
are
with
going,
it, that's not
if you
a
want
winning strategy.
reliability, you pick first. You decide what it is you're looking for, and you find a strain that matches that. You purchase those seeds, and if they meet your criteria after one grow, then you say, I'm getting more of these, or I'm cloning the ones I have, the best females of the one I have. And that's the way I think an intelligent marijuana growing operation should be run.
Sure. Well, you'll see that there's for every 1,000 breeders that are out there trying to hustle or whatever, there's like 5 that are like in a situation where they're actually taking it seriously enough where you're like, oh, well, that guy's really,
And how do you make that
nailing it.
distinction? Which ones are the ones who are doing that carefully, and which ones?
I think the first thing...
Not naming names. I mean,
No,
just
not
what
even
are the
naming names. The
criterion by
first
which
thing-
you would
first-
identify one of those
First thing I would
guys?
say is that they hammer on 1 or 2 things, or maybe 5 things, or 6, or maximum like 8.
They don't have 80 flavors a
There's
year.
no more than 8. You know what I mean?
Right. They're
just
concentrating
hammering
on
those
goals that are established, and they're
for
working toward
20
them.
plus years. You know what I mean? Where I'm like,
Or it doesn't have to be 20 years. I mean, as long as there's an intention, I think, behind the cross. Like, you have to ask yourself the other question I mentioned, or I meant to mention, when you are looking at a seed, does this meet my criteria? I want to ask, like, well, what did the breeder put these two together for? What was his thought, in terms of what was the desired result? And oftentimes, every time in my descriptions of my seeds, I always try to say, we put these two together because, and here was the result, it was what we were looking for. And I only write that because after testing, that one is one that I can truly say that about. We tested this, we really like this or that about it. Here are the characteristics you can expect. And in that pack, I want my customers to know that, like, they'll get 12 seeds, that they're going to find a half a dozen females that they can choose 2 of the best that are stellar,
Sure.
and then clone ad infinitum. That's my advice on how to intelligently buy a pack of seeds.
That's
Put them
pretty
all
much-
in the ground,
Yep.
find the best couple of females.
You don't hold
and
back, because that's
clone
usually the worst
them,
part.
baby.
People go like, oh, yeah.
Clone, baby, clone.
So like I held back. You're like, you should have just did them all and picked up the 1 out of 10 or 12, because that's way better than
That's a great
5.
point. You know what he's bringing up? He's bringing up this the fact that growing a handful of seeds, it's a probabilities game, it's a numbers game. And when you say, yeah, I bought this pack of 10 seeds, and I gave my buddy 3, I planted 3, and we're saving the other ones, for later. Like,
Yeah.
Don't
this
save those
is-
for later.
No, not unless it's an extremely stable strain where, hey, these are like almost every one of them comes out the same, and the germination rate's great, and blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
But, really, 10 seeds is a very small population to pick from,
And you-
statistically.
you
It's
brought up-
statistics
Yeah,
we're talking
it's just like
about
anything.
here.
When you have your puppy has a litter, there's always 1 or 2 runs. You know what I mean? And if that's what you're running with your whole time, you're like, yeah, you didn't know because you're running with the run. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
you could have had the big one.
You don't know it's the runt because you don't have anything to compare it to.
So we got chat room questions for you. I got you prompted some things in my mind with stuff you said. Chat room question is: do you ever try to breed for like a homozygous recessive trait? Basically, breeding for blue eyes, essentially, is what they're talking about.
No, there's always a trait where it is a recessive gene that controls that. We found that in the there was a dome profile in the P75 generation that we came across that was, by the ratios we could tell this is a recessive thing, and we found a way to match a male to a female so that we had that in both the mother and father, so that the resulting gene was reliably carrying all that recessive gene forward.
And then after that, initial cross and the F1 cross off of that, it's basically just selection moving forward to preserve that once you have it in
No,
there.
that's the seed line. You save that mother and father and just
Keep going from them, right?
Yeah. Why would you, reinvent the wheel from
Sure.
that point? Which brings another thing we were talking earlier about. People talk about F1, F2, and 3, and so forth. Just a general knowledge of that from the Mendelian laws that were established hundreds of years ago. The way that gene recombination works. I expressed that, in layman's terms, talking about when you have people from different parts of the world, and then you have a reliable result.
Sure.
But their children, then it starts to become a crapshoot or a lottery. That F1, F2, and F3 thing kind of works in this way. The F1 is the result of those 2 pure parents.
Right.
And they are kind of reliably all the same. And then when you take 2, a male and a female, from that generation, cross them, you get the F2 generation. Those then are variable, and you start to see the variation.
That's where it all breaks apart, right? That's
there
the
you
widest
start
variation.
seeing your variation, and then crossing those to get to an F3. The reason people do that is they're trying to refine one of the phenotypes, or perhaps no more than two. I mean, you really have to be concentrating and saying, well, this is what I'm going for in this
That's
line.
when you've sort of laid out the whole deck and
Right,
you're picking
and
the
so
cards
you
you
say,
want.
this is the male and female from that generation that I want to cross and create an F3 generation for specific reasons that you personally have chosen, like, I feel the flavor or the potency or the height, compactness, yield, whatever it is, or some combination of the above, would be enhanced in the next generation. And then if they start to breed truer in each generation, as you keep selecting for those same traits in the F3 and F4 and F5 generation, you continue to improve that phenotype that you've been trying. And at a certain point, you can call that now a purebred line, and they start reliably producing that.
People say that IBL is introduced at like F6, F7. I feel like that's way premature because you can't even see. I feel like you still have variation there.
Well,
you still get that one out of the pack, the 1 out of 20. That's weird. So
you have to have a line you draw where you say, look, it's reliable to this percentage, and that doesn't start to deteriorate, then you're happy with it. And
most people are
stable.
on 5 or 6, and they're already kind of like, all right.
There's another
should
thing
be good.
Mitch just prompted, too. What is, he used the word stability, and people will say, well, what is stability? I think that the most important definition that a seed buyer needs to think about in terms of what does stability mean to you? Are all the seeds that come from this pack going to look the same? Like all the girls going to look like sisters that all look like twins, or are they going to be sisters that look like like, whoa, that's the guy who has the redhead, the blonde, and brunette,
Well, and I think stability. There's to me, there's 3 parts to it. There's that, right? There's the
and
uniformity.
There's the stability of how do they breed together. Does the next generation look like the
there's
previous
overall
generation?
and then there's
That's
the third
real,
sort of unique to
true
cannabis
scientific
is it going to hold its? Is it
definition.
going to have intersex traits, or is it going to hold its basically hatch trait? Like,
keeping it real
do you know
simple.
if roosters
Mitch.
can switch?
What do you mean?
If you only have chickens, one will become a rooster or whatever.
Yeah, you're saying a hen will switch to a rooster,
Yeah.
to a hermaphrodite. Yeah,
Yeah.
they usually want to go in that direction for some reason.
So that's, if roosters can do it, when roosters seem far more set than plants. Plants seem so much more flexible.
No. You're saying it's a hen.
If chickens can do it, my point being, if a bird can do it, which isn't a plant, something that seems like far more fixed, far less malleable
you'd
than a
think
plant.
it would take over generations to start saying, we need to do this.
Well, but you
wouldn't have another generation.
Exactly,
You better do
so
it.
now when
You
it
better
happens
do
in
it
plants,
now.
it's like it doesn't seem that weird anymore.
But
I
lizards
guess.
do that sort of thing.
Sure, and which birds are pretty much like lizards.
Yeah, very much so.
So there's that.
Sounds awesome.
Birds are like dinosaurs. Sounds awesome.
They're they have
Transvestite
exactly been,
dinosaurs
they've been
is the
linked to
show.
that.
It's the name of the title of the show.
We'll change it up.
So we
All right, keep it
talked
moving.
about not planting enough seeds, the polyhybrid understanding.
Well, let's talk
them.
feminized, because we were kind of touching on that right there.
Yeah. There was the feminization thing started way back in my day before some of these kids even were born, and it all
Maybe
started
those kids are feminized.
in the
They
like
could be
80s. Guys were, I want to say maybe 90s. I heard a lot more about it in, I would say, the late 90s. So let's say people started doing that, say, 90 to 95. It was a maybe accidental thing at first where they had a Hermy on a female, and then they noticed that the pollen from that, pollinated another plant, and all the seeds were feminine. But they didn't, go on to test that theory for a little bit longer and realized that some of them, a significant number, were also Hermes, and you had to know which ones were true feminized seed and which weren't. And that just made it very difficult, because how much harder is it to find a hermaphrodite that looks like a female and doesn't show its male traits until it's too late in the room, than just telling a true female from a true male. That's, in my opinion, you just buy regular seeds and avoid that whole thing, has been my approach to it. There is a big market for feminized seeds, and I looked into it a lot more, and I said, if I could do this right and really offer them to people, I want to do it. And from the research I've read, there is another step or two to it, that you go from that first generation of having selved, you've taken some feminine pollen, if you will, and used it on whichever female you wanted to then pollinate. That generation then has to be tested and, put through a lot of stresses and such, that you find which ones will Hermy and which ones really resist that, and then breed from there. And from that point, you within a generation, I think it's possible to get seeds that you could reliably say, you're not going to get Hermes, you're going to get all Fems.
Stable Fem line.
Yeah. It's a recessive, probably, I know, but very likely.
So Colin Gordon was talking about it when he was on the show. He totally gave us a crazy, awesome new perspective to look at it.
Oh, cool.
He said, don't think of it as sex. Think of it as like an ethylene production trait. It's simply a matter of how much ethylene they do or don't produce, and that will control the sex. So if you think of it like that, and then you think of it like any of the other, biochemical production traits, terpene production, cannabinoid production, you breed for it the same way. It's not this weird mythical, like, oh, is it 60% male, 50% male? It's like this one makes a lot of this stuff that keeps it, or this one doesn't.
He's got a much more focused microscope and probably has like a chemical engineering background, botany background or so on, and he's explaining it from that perspective, which is great.
It's strictly
and he
theoretical,
did it
but
in a
it's
way
good.
that, I know, and it was still very layman's term like to me. I liked that, yeah. I agree. And I think that people are doing that more from like watching the shadows on the wall rather than the thing itself now, and you're sort of following what's really going on underneath from different criteria that may not be as precise and controllable as the ones that your gentleman suggested a moment ago.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it, shadows on the wall, because you do have a little distortion, right?
Yeah, I pull a little of the old Greek philosophy in the conversation there. I knew you'd like that.
Moscow says hi to you.
Hey, Moscow.
A lot of people just showing up in the room. Mr. Miner's in the house. Big chat room. About 100 people.
Yeah,
it's been a lot.
It's awesome.
It's been a great
awesome.
year. You were saying about my evolution. Part of that is gaining a bigger circle of friends out here and knowing more people. It's been great. Everybody's very warm and friendly, and I've been super happy with the transition. I go back on about 10 days to get my wife from New York and drag her out here and see if she likes it, and she'll probably go run screaming, or hopefully she'll relax and say, hey, this is great. So we'll see how it goes.
So let's see if we got any other questions here. No, it is hard to get used to Adam without a beard. That's totally true, Moscow.
It'll be back. It'll be back.
What else you got on the agenda for us?
Well, I thought, we touched on the feminizing. What about saving money on seeds?
Yeah, that's a good one. I saw that.
People often talk about prices, and we lowered our prices recently because, if the volume of people out there support that, I want to be able to say, hey, our company doesn't need to make more than that, so this price seems to be the good soft point for people, and if they're happy with that, then we've tried to respond to that, and it's been great. And bringing that question to the fore, I've responded to it, but at the same time, the other side of the coin, if you give me one more second to finish that thought, my other side of the coin is that what investment in your entire growing operation, be it the smallest to any size, the largest, could give you more bang for your buck than starting with the right genetics, so that the time that you invested in vegging and then flowering these plants and harvesting them and trimming them and putting them on the market and making your money wasn't wasted because the quality wasn't high enough to get the price you wanted or the yield that you wanted and such. Investing that extra, people are talking about, $150 is all the highest price seed that we sell. Like, that's a lot of money. Well, if you're running a cannabis growing operation and $150 is a large investment to you, then I would question what you're doing. Sit back down, get the pen and paper out, and go over the numbers and what you're doing.
Of course.
Because, what can you get for $150? A couple of bulbs for your HPS lighting. It's a minimal amount of money and a huge bang for your buck.
And when people don't want to invest in seed, it just doesn't make sense. It's like the foundation that you're building everything on. And
so that's my little philosophical.
And I was just going to say that I think there's a combination of two things. I mean, as a seed breeder myself, I already know.
Yeah, I know. I'm preaching to the choir.
But I know that people always, get out their calculator and they're like, yeah, but you can do this and that and this. And it's like, yeah, but there's so much more goes into the whole process in the first place.
In today's lingo that I picked up during this past year, Mitch, check it out. Ballers don't think like that.
No, ballers don't think like that.
They're not pinching pennies, right?
And I think that in the near future, what's going to happen now that we have these awesome experiences? I mean, everybody's looking for the high CBD, low THC that they can actually run and do pounds of, or let's say. But that's very
there's
hard.
a market for the medical.
Yeah, and I think once we get over the hump and everybody's like, you know what? okay, it can go up to like 1% or whatever like that. It'll make it much easier for people to like stay within that bracket, because right now you're pretty much setting people up to fail. I think if you give them seeds and say that they're going to stay below the 0.3, just because we know
there's too much variation.
There'll always be one or two that pop up and be like, yeah.
Well, one or two. I mean,
Yeah,
they have to be aware.
If you have millions of seeds, you're talking about like 10,000 maybe that might spike. You know what I mean? Because
you're
of course,
talking-
there's always, and like it was pretty interesting. Like when I went out to a field a couple of years ago, somehow I managed to like pull out the one plant that was like super high, where it would have got him in trouble in the first place. And I had it
And
tested.
how'd you pick it out?
Just visual.
You
Just
said
walked
it
around and went
looked
like,
good
that
enough.
thing looks pretty awesome. It had no seeds,
Right.
so it was seedless. So it was like a sterile plant that grew in the middle of all the other ones, and just put out
And it looked like a THC plant.
it put out some more smell and trikes and everything. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, there you go.
And that was
So
just
those
visual.
are-
That was one out of like a million plants in a
I just
half
want
acre.
to see how you identified it. So it was like more frostier and looked more.
Yeah, just to
okay.
look different. It was funny.
There's
I
a
had my,
badass looking bitch up
and
there.
I gave it to
Pull
one.
her out of the
I gave it to
ground
another
before-
guy, and he tested it, and he goes, "Yep, it was. Ooh, that was.
It would've-
that would have got us all in trouble."
Why did they look at really every plant, or that just would have been lucky? They'd probably have picked that one out.
If some guy was like me,
Oh, yeah.
he would have walked around and said,
There's one I got to.
"Got it checked out." Just that one. I don't see anything else.
It's not exactly representative of the crop, though. How unfair is that?
Right. But no,
Ball
it was
buster.
it was interesting just to see, and we know that cannabis in general, it just wants to fucking get better, right? It doesn't want to get worse, so it's gonna try to like step itself up again. Within a generation, it's gonna go like if somebody takes seeds from 1 year and thinks they're gonna get the next year, it's gonna stay that low. I doubt it. It's gonna always creep a little bit.
I see.
I believe.
When you're starting for okay,
Just 'cause
I
the
keep
plants-
having to recalibrate to your what you're talking about, the low THC world, which I don't really dabble in. But,
No, but that's the
so,
only place right now
he's
that
saying,
people are
like, they're
talking
getting
about.
worse. They're getting more THC. Damn it,
Right. But I think,
No,
but I
that's
think,
not
but I
really
think
how
they're
it
getting
works in my
better,
world.
yeah.
Where if you're
Sure.
not careful, that's a trait that you could lose.
And I think also once we get like people who really want to buy a lot of seed and do big things, I don't mind selling seeds for like $5,000 a pound if I know it's going to a good cause. Like it's not going to be resold to a million people and we make a ton of money. It's going to be actually put in the
Hey.
ground, and I get to fly over it and go, yep, that looks pretty good. You know what I mean? I'll sell pounds of seed to somebody just to see that work.
Oh yeah.
But obviously, these would be all high THC stuff. So I warn you. I warn
Consider
you.
yourself
Consider
warned.
yourself warned. If you want it, you got it. No, but in those situations, I feel like $5,000 a pound is fair because I know where it's going. You know what I mean? But if it's going to be a situation where it's like down to packaging and things and marketing and getting to people's hands and all that, it's a lot of work. It's more work than people think. And when it actually grows, and you have a 10-pack and you paid $150, whatever, that's like a branch. You know what I mean? It's one little branch on the bottom, or one half a side of a plant, or maybe even if it's the worst plant in the world, it'd be one plant. You know what I mean? It'd be like, there's your money back. So
True,
and
because I mean, you can clone ad infinitum from
Oh,
that.
I know.
And it doesn't really take that long to establish, 20 or more mothers from the first little branch that you get within 4 months, and then from there you almost have more clones than you know what to do with.
Sure. And I mean, there's so many ways to work it, and also just when you find that special thing, you're like, ooh, all right, that was worth 10 pack.
And I like the consistency. I mean, if I were a guy who's just filling up a room to grow for bud, I want them all the same clone, and they're all in the same medium.
Yeah,
and, they're all
that's
getting the
step
same
2.
and then everything grows so uniformly, and
way better.
it's much better.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It's great to grow from seed, but not for commercial, like large scale yet. I mean, unless you
That's
get
like phase 1.
Well, I mean,
Right.
depending on if you could really rely on those seedlings to be uniform. We have a skunk project going on right now where I couldn't believe, like we put these 18 or 21, I think it was, in a room, and the heights varied so little. I mean, within 6 inches or something, and they were all these big, beefy, similar kind of plants with 3 phenotypes basically. And I was like, damn, they're already pretty stable. But you can't, count on that with many seeds that are out there. But that's what part of my point. There
Well,
are some, if you look carefully, there are strains out there that are, that's stable enough where I could probably throw down 1,000 of those and count on all the females being within a certain range of each other, and that might be a good choice for that person.
So one of the challenging things, of course, is like you don't get to grow them before you buy them. right? So how do people? What would you suggest for people to kind of ask breeders? What questions should they ask breeders? What would be some of the things they should look for to make smarter decisions
Well,
while
I'd
they're
say
buying their seeds?
do all those questions in your own mind first before asking them something that you could have researched yourself real easily, or asked yourself like, well, why was the mother and father chosen as they were? Why were they chosen as they were? And if in my description on the website it's already in there, and you send me a question like, well, why'd you pick those two? I'd probably send you back a link to that page or something rather than a response. So like do your homework. So do that stuff in advance. But what questions would you ask a breeder beyond that? I think most of it from that point is like, well, what's their company's reputation? Did it make sense in your own mind that those two things would give the result that he's claiming they would? Do you know any people who have grown that all out already? And, go off of those things, and I would consider that kind of like your own research. And I worked for a guy, I remember, where he said, when people ask you for references, always tell them, look, I could probably give you 500 of them, and I'd like you to look through every one of them, and if you see any bad references in there, just point them out to me so I can pull them out of the stack so for the next person, right? So, in other words, asking a company, for references, would they really give you a bad one? So asking the breeder, I don't know if that's such the right approach to it anyway. Do your own research, kind of form your own decisions based on the internet, and word of mouth is always the best thing, unless you're limiting your circle to some little group. Open your mind and see what the general consensus on something is, and you'd probably be well served then.
Breeding chat room question for you.
Okay.
Do you ever use a stem rub during veg to select your mothers, or do you take them all the way out through bloom before you make your selections?
Totally through bloom. The stem rub thing will give you some idea, and you kind of say, oh, that one might have potential, and then when they're finished, that may or may not have been true in the end. So I don't think it's that reliable that I would cull a plant and not put it into flower just based on, the stem rub didn't really pass on that one.
Is there anything?
Some stuff comes out of the flower only, and it's not in the stem.
Yeah.
No, would you cull it if it didn't have any? If you just thought it was a shit plant, you take them all through just in case?
No, I mean it has to have some characteristic that I say, well, that one's earned its spot. If it's sickly and didn't make it, and it's far behind if it's so far behind the other plants, and I have 25 plants that I want to bring in a room, and I've got 3 that are like, damn, if I put them in the room, they probably won't catch up to the other ones. It's just a waste of space. I'll have some other, cuttings that are of a similar size as the other plants that I'm bringing in the room from a different strain, and I'll just say, put them in there. It would be much more effective, right? And then I'd cull them.
Sure,
but I want to see those seedlings
that's what Matt Berger was all like. He said like that when the OG came over, it was the sickliest, ugliest plant. And
sure, because he was all about finishing the blob.
Everybody would have killed it.
And that turns into OG.
Kill it. Oh. Yeah, it was like it could barely hold itself up. There you go.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is you have to take it through flowering, or you haven't really made a full, intelligent decision on it. Or you gambled and you rolled the dice and you'll never know.
Right. No, it's amazing sometimes when you get the plant that just in the last 2 weeks just does everything. You're like, what the hell?
There was one actually where we crossed the Cinderella 99 to a Cinderella 99 Super Silver Haze recently. It was our little haze project that we just did. And I called it Whitey Bulger because the damn thing was like the buds were getting swelling and bulging, and the pistil stayed white. 2 weeks beyond when the other ones had started turning really like more than 50% red on all the other buds of the same cross. I was like, what's with this one? But boy, in like the 3 or 4 days just before harvest, just went all red.
Just all caught up at once.
Yeah.
Sometimes those ones are cool.
Got like really frosty in those few days too.
Like it.
They almost like hit that stride with more momentum going in because they're so.
I'll tell you what, these haze crosses with the royal genes from the Princess and Genius lines, I think that sped up the maturation to now where we got like 9-week finishers.
Not bad. And that's like on the cross you were talking about.
Yeah, I'm on the Instagram page. You'll see a lot of that stuff where I keep bringing people up to date, and on Facebook I do that too.
Adam, questions? Thoughts?
Questions?
We've talked a lot about.
We were talking
about a lot of stuff,
What about clones being passed around?
Disease-ridden clones.
Not only that, I mean, here's even a bigger problem for me is that authenticity. Okay,
It takes one.
The guy
sleight of
down the
hand.
street. The guy down the street gave this guy up the street a clone. He said it was that, and the next guy believed him. And then,
Sure.
3 people later,
Yeah.
he's passing it off as something that he honestly believes that
That's
it
why
is.
everything
but he
tastes
didn't
like-
really do his research.
Everything tastes like
You
Jack
gotta be-
Aurora right now.
Because it's all just Jack renamed.
Yeah. Jack. You're like, wait a minute. The Durban is Jack. That's Jack. This is Jack. It's all Jack.
Well, I think there's only so many. It's like the notes in the musical alphabet, right? You have 12 notes, and it's just the combinations that give you the infinity of different choices of melodies and rhythms and what have you in the music, right?
Somehow it all goes to Jack. Turns to the Jack
It
note.
all turns into Jack.
The Jack note.
Jack is the dubstep of flavor.
I love Jack, though. Jack Harrer, if you have the right one, I mean, the really true one from Amsterdam that I'm sure you remember, I wanted to have that one turned into a men's cologne. I want to use that when I go out at night. I love that aroma.
Yeah, no, it is. It's got a real. I mean, it's got a.
it's,
It was real
sublime.
complex when it first came out, but now it seems to be so. Like,
I'll get
out
you a
there.
butt of our Rosetta Stone. We resurrected that big time.
Nice one.
It should be ready in 2 or 3 weeks.
Got another chat room question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Soul. Someone wants to know if they can buy a signed pack of Cindy 99 from you.
If anybody emails us at info@brothersgrimmseeds.com and says, I have here, my receipt, or I don't know, how would they do that? How would they do that? Geez, that would create a huge problem for my. I could. Well, you know what? We could raffle off a couple right now, or have people
You could
call in for a
Zoom,
couple.
yeah.
Can we do
Sign
that?
it live
we could do
right
that.
here.
That's about the best I can do because I don't want to create for my distributors
Right,
like
that'll be a
some
headache for him,
nightmare
yeah.
where everybody's saying, "Hey, Mr. Soul said, I could
All right,
buy a
what-
pack
what
from
do we
you,
got, some
and you
packs?
could send it to him, and he'd sign it, and I'd have to hire
Did the kids just take all those
an
packs?
assistant
No.
to keep up with this."
Everything's here.
Let me see those.
There's that.
I've got
Is it
2
Rosetta-
packs of Rosetta
Rosetta Stone,
Stone,
and it's-
which is here's what Rosetta Stone really breaks down into. It's a faster flowering, bigger yielding Jack Harrer with that old school original Jack Harrer. The mother of the plant just had the original Jack Harrer genes and passed it on to the progeny here, and you get maybe 2 main phenotypes: a tall one and a shorter, compactor one, and one of each of those 2 phenotypes will have the Jack Harrer intense aroma that you associate with that, and that's the mother to pick. The tall one, we're going to test that outdoors next year when we get a chance to bring it around to season. But we have big hopes for that. It looks like a big, tall juniper tree, and the branches are just loaded with buds, and it's finished in 9 weeks. So the little shorter one just seems to keep wanting to pump out more and more flowers, and the colas are getting thick and stinky. So pick your best short compact one out of those, and I think it's the one that's under the radar at the moment. It hasn't been out there long enough for people to know how cool it is and how good it is. And,
All right, how are people going to win packs?
how would they win a pack? Let's see. We have to come up with some kind of question for them.
Sure, you could ask them a question.
Or-
We like to have them make animal sounds or whatever. You could have
Cool.
them do a
Takes
challenge.
You
You can
takes
do
all the
whatever you
pressure
want.
off of me.
Yeah,
What
you can.
question can I
Figure out
ask
how much
them,
this thing weighs. So figure out how much this weighs.
Do we have a scale?
Oh yeah, that's a good question actually.
Yeah, I got a
I
scale.
brought in this certain
got one. You want to
quantity of
Well, did they
mud
get-
that was
do you
know exactly how much
very
is in there?
expertly trimmed, so it wasn't done by me. It's really tight.
Sure, go
and
grab your scale.
it's genius bud. I marked it sativa just so I could tell that it was a summer grade bag that
Summer grade.
it was in a hot
Makes me
room
feel fine.
that hadn't
So wait,
had enough
I have a question though.
air conditioning added
Are
yet.
we going to give away all 3 packs
That's
to the person
still
who
pretty
guesses
hot,
it,
though.
or are we going to let?
I'm just saying it could be a question.
How? Well, so that's one question. Is how much is in
Fire.
that bag?
Fire.
And then
I would say guess the strain and
you just told them what it was.
Excuse me.
look at that.
And
Kill that part.
So-
Hey to the door, Mr.
I'm
Door.
trying to
guess
come up
the-
with questions, and this guy takes some of them away from me.
Yeah. Well, we
Slamming
could,
the door.
we could guess the weight, and we could guess. I don't know. Guessing will take forever too. It has to be something with a definitive answer, or it has to be a contest. Let's give them a contest. I like. You can have them name a strain. You could have them just do something awesome for your amusement, or answer a question that you happen to know from another
we
aspect.
do like
you
the animal noises. Those
And
work on
it's
good.
hysterical. If you make them all do the same animal, and whoever does like the best chicken is very good.
Very good. It's
It's very good.
highbrow.
That's quality humor. The New Yorker actually is doing that bit now. It turns out.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
It's the hottest
I'm going to
thing.
try to bring up our Instagram page and come up with a question.
384 grams is the guess we got right now. KTI, you gonna get that all on that scale?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll put a double cup on there. You
Yeah.
know,
Good
Hey, we got
heavens.
this. You know, this ain't the first rodeo.
35-gram bag is this? About?
Excuse me?
You know if the bag's 35 grams? Is that usually about
How much the
34?
bag itself weighs?
Give it 15. It's
right.
got to be under the. It's probably 12. You know, it's 10
Okay.
or 12,
It's
but
thin.
say 15 just to be.
Okay, so we're allotting
Make it
15 grams for the weight of the bag.
Just to make it.
And what do we got total?
Should probably call
I
it.
tell you.
What's that?
Make it easy.
Okay,
Yeah, we gotta
write
keep
it
that
down
DL.
though.
Okay, hold on.
Write it down on a piece of
Right on
paper.
a piece of paper, away from the screen, be all scribbly wibbly about it.
Squibbly wibbly.
Scribbly wibbly. Don't
Or
all-
just text it to me.
Okay.
Did you guys have me back to the camera the whole time?
Yeah, no. You're
to the
you're
future.
right on.
Back
You're
to
back
the
to the future.
I am now, but I mean when I was the whole time
Okay,
we've been
because all these people are guessing, so I got to be able to say who's
Who
winning.
is this
KTI.
guy?
This is mystery guy. At least you got your hair. You got your
Yeah.
hair. You're all good.
Yeah, that's my best feature. My best feature at my age. So let me see if I can.
You get an Instagram question for the next pack, and
Perhaps.
so is this going to be for the Cindy 99 pack, the guess the weight, or for the one of the Rosetta Stones?
Let's make a harder question for the Cindy 99 and an easier
Yeah,
question.
I agree.
for-
So I
and
think
then
this is-
We'll
this
have
is-
3 people altogether, right? One
Yeah.
person.
So the guessing
each
is
of
the
the
hardest one.
Rosetta
Oh,
Stones.
okay. So what do
Guessing
you
the
got
weight
there?
would be the hardest one.
So Cindy 99 for guessing.
15.
And you give them a
Did you
time
text-
limit, and whoever comes the closest without going over.
Now, did you subtract the weight of the bag off that, or this is
Mhm.
without the?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay. Wow. Someone was really
First
close.
time to the radio.
So it's the
Yeah.
closest without going over. You
You already
said.
ruled that out.
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be
I
in
know
the
how
chat
this
room.
works.
I got to roll through here.
That bag's 16
Ooh,
grams.
that's
actually.
really close,
What's that?
but it's just over. Oof. Ooh, there's some close ones. Dang. Whoa.
Ready?
All right, I gotta pull this. I
People
gotta
Yeah,
pull
do
this.
do we
People
gotta
have a
do tenth
good
of
eye,
grams
you know.
now?
They
Because
can
there was actually tenth of grams, really.
No.
please.
I gotta pull this
Come
out
on, that's
into.
being a little bit too much.
We're not doing.
It's not going to be a tie. I'm not worried about this, but I got to pull this out into a notepad to look at. There's a lot of guesses in here. And do you have another question coming up, Mr. Soul?
I could ask what is the most recent international distributor that I posted on my Instagram account.
And that's for going to be for a pack of Rosetta Stone.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Shabam.
Shibbity bam. All right.
What is the
We have one
name
more?
of my most recent international distributor? It will be the
Money,
most
big
recent,
money. What?
most recent pick
It's the
on my
first person-
Instagram feed.
First
Do you
person,
know who it is?
excuse me, Jesus. First person to post that answer to the chat room. Is that what it's going to be?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's the answer, Mitch, so you know if when they shoot it.
Okay.
Damn.
I'm still looking for the winner. I mean, it's really close.
Yeah, there were some new ones that
Wow.
were.
Whoa.
Even tighter.
I can't believe people are
Tighter than tight.
able to do it.
Oof. These are all slightly over. All
Yeah,
slightly
they're all there.
They all think they're going to
I mean,
win
this
all the
Price
weed.
is
They
Right
all think
kinda
they-
deal,
they
right?
think
Did
they get all the
anyone?
weed.
Did anyone hit in there?
They think they're getting the weed. So they like secretly.
Oh, someone's got to be really close now. Okay. I'm getting the updated. Back up to the top. Okay, let's see what we got here.
Need some music.
Did anyone hit it on the head? Okay, no one hit it on the head.
No, the closest I've found one that's been kind of close. What's that times? I can't figure that out. So that
Oh,
doesn't
someone
win.
did it in ounces.
Yes, in the ounces is just not gonna. Yeah,
No, I need to know in grams.
yeah. We
You
don't
can't,
really
you
do
can't
well.
count on me to do a conversion there.
Yeah, we
No,
should have
it's-
said grams.
Now, does anyone,
Yeah, it's all about
KTI,
grams.
can you be checking in the chat room for the answer to the next one, the newest distributor internationally of Mr.
Yeah.
Scholl's seeds, Brothers Grimm seeds, for a pack of
And then
pack of Rosetta
yeah.
Stones?
Yeah, and then I've definitely got the
Are you searching for that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Schwerd.
I'm still looking in the grammage department.
Yeah, I can tell you which.
You got a winner for me?
No, it's not on the head, but I found the one that's closest.
What is the closest without going over? How many grams is it?
Am I allowed to say that?
Well,
is
if he's
it
reached
ended?
the time
If
limit,
it's if,
How much-
if
nobody
that's
said
it,
the
yes.
time limit.
It's the first one to get it. So if you got it, get
Fucking
it.
Mosca's the one that found this closest.
Well, he doesn't
the
count.
hell
He
out of
doesn't count.
Okay.
Okay, I found that one too. That one's not going to work.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't count. Oh, he's got the Jeopardy music. Good. Wonderful. No dead air now.
No way.
This is awesome.
These guys are they're going pro in the last 10 months or so that I've been away.
Second closest is like way out of there. You guys
Is it Scott?
It's
are
close.
not good at eyeballing weed, is what I know.
I'm like, dude, or is it Scott? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you gotta feel that.
All right, but now someone please check the chat room for the answer to
Spring Hill says a fat eighth. It's kind of
saw
A
that.
fat eighth.
just kind of it's a 4 gram eighth. It's
it's
one of them.
subjective too.
We just
Love it.
hooked it up a little.
It looks like Scott Dewerson.
Yeah, that's
That's the closest one I'm finding. So, Scott Dewerson, congratulations. You just won a signed pack of Cindy 99 by Brothers Grimm. Go ahead and email
His name's Scott.
Scott.
yes.
And they're going to email what? info@brothersgrimmseeds.com. Was that it?
Yep. But we have them here, right? We're gonna send them out.
Yeah.
Sign them and get them out.
Sure,
Sign
we could
them
do
and
that.
send
We could do that, but we got to get his address somewhere.
That
And
would
we
be
don't-
helpful.
Yeah, so go ahead and email that to info@brothersgrimmseeds.com, and we'll get Mr. Soul to sign it.
What was that email again?
You tell me.
info@brothersgrimmseeds.com. Brothers and seeds are plural. So
Brothers
info
Grimm
at
Seeds.
brothersgrimmseeds.com.
Nice. Congrats, Scott.
2 M's in Grimm.
That's true. 2 M's in Grimm. And did anyone else?
Google it.
The
if you
warranty
have
will
to.
be void
Google
though
it
if
you have to.
it gets opened.
Oh, that's
Google is your friend.
Why these can't be warranted?
No, right here.
Well,
Wow.
if you
Listen,
open it and sign
yeah,
it, that's
that's-
going to break the
here's the
warranty.
deal.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I was a little worried
But
about.
I am here on camera breaking the seal.
Oh, so
of
if-
We don't want to void no
my own
warranties
pack of
here, you
seeds
know.
That I will vouch
That was
for
the
as Cinderella
concern.
99.
So if anyone
This is
questions
only
that
for-
So it's
warranty-
void.
See, it's void after somebody opens it, but
okay.
we did that on the air, right? Did
Yeah,
the
so if
camera
this ever
catch
comes
that?
up in court, you just reference this
This is
video.
the-
Well,
Switch
I'm
those seeds
wa-
out.
I'm
watching
got
about
some
this stuff.
seeds.
I studied
Scott,
this stuff
right?
a little, you
Switch
know.
'em.
I'll say rock on Scott.
Oh, Matt Riot finally showing up in the chat room. And all right, do we have a giveaway for the next one? Does anyone have their the newest international distributor for Brothers Grimm Seeds? KTI, did you catch that in the chat room? Newest international distributor?
No, I didn't. Shit, I fucked up.
You sure did, buddy.
But that's fine because I can look back.
Oh, someone, I see it.
Which one?
I see Crop hit it. Crop looks like the first one to get it. Let's double check it. And Mr. Soul, that first, that international distributor, that's Canapot, correct?
Canapot.
Canapot, and I think, let's check that out.
And they are in Austria.
In Austria. Why can't
And at the moment, we're trying to update our website, but we're going through a change of server and a new webmaster. So
All right,
give us
so-
another week.
so
and
Crop got
they've
it.
been left out, and they're like, dude, can you help tell people, we're legit?
Wait, did
because-
people have to say where they were located? Was that part of the question?
No.
No, okay.
They're in Austria, just for people
someone-
to know. It's an international one. Yeah.
Someone got that. But Crop was the first one to get it.
So Crop gets it.
You're the winner.
Okay.
Go ahead and email us again, info@brothersgrimmseeds.com.
Bingo.
There you go. He's going to sign one of these packs of Rosetta Stone to Crop.
There's the one for Scott.
There's
Cinderella
Scott's.
99.
Boom.
I'll hold it because he's got to email me
Yep.
his address, and I'm responsible from that point on.
Yep.
All right.
Then we
We got one more
got
pack?
Crop, and then we got to give away one more pack. How do we want to give this one away?
Now what?
What was the international distributor just previous to that? On Instagram, on our feed.
Okay, you got to tell me who that is, though.
So, Adam, I was noticing the weather around Denver is looking rather
Humid.
weathery. Yeah, humid.
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 Let's see what they say here. Let's see. if
Powell's
someone else
coming
has an
down in
answer.
the mountains as well.
Oh,
I've been
Bobby
hearing.
Boucher just hit it.
Nailed it.
A second before Mosca, Blunt Thumb, everyone else. I think Bobby Boucher just...
Damn, Oscar.
Money.
Got some time on your hands there, boy.
It's funny, because like
Free packs.
Mosca knows you by name, but he's still trying to win free packs from
I
you.
know. Reach out, bro. We know each other. Don't be calling in and taking people's prizes.
Yeah, exactly. You got to leave it for the
Prize
people.
snatcher.
We're not.
What's that?
Prize snatchers.
Oh, wait, Bill Johnson might have won it. Sorry.
Ooh.
Bill
Ew,
Johnson.
I see Bill Johnson said
Nope.
it twice.
Well.
Yeah, Bill Johnson definitely won that, not
Okay,
Bobby
Bill.
Boucher. Sorry.
Bobby Boucher, you're
Sorry,
out.
gang.
Sorry, bro.
That one was Bill
did he-
Johnson.
This, I think he might have said that before
Nope,
you asked.
doesn't. Nope.
Before you asked the question.
I don't think that was the case.
Oh, okay.
You think so?
Well, I'm not one to question you.
Look, I got Bobby Boucher less than a minute
but
ago.
I'll say this though. I'll say this. There was a lot
Bill
of
Johnson I also got less than a minute ago.
There was a lot of questions. There's a lot of
Bill Johnson about a minute ago. None of those were like more than they were
Bob
all.
Boucher is. I mean,
He was tight in there. I'm not saying it wasn't a photo finish, but I'm saying when you go, it's in a chat log,
okay.
dude. You can go back there.
Cool. I ain't gonna about to argue.
All right.
Someone's about to make out. Awesome. Little sign pack. That's awesome.
Right on. So, Bill, go ahead and email info@brothersgrimmseeds.com. Get your mailing address in there.
And you'll get a signed pack of Rosetta Stone.
There you go.
Yes, the compact, fast-flowering
So that's pretty
Jack
good.
Herrera.
That's a pretty good giveaway.
Jack Herrera.
We
His
appreciate
name's
everyone
it
playing.
Rhymes with terror.
right.
Jack Herrera.
That's how you like to describe it. I like that.
Yes, pronounce the man's name with some respect.
Before terror was a really bad word. Now he
Dude,
Yeah,
that
no.
concentrate kicked my ass.
Yeah, we might have a shorter show today because everyone's kind of blazed.
Oh, come on.
No? All right, go ahead. Carry away then.
What?
So,
gonna smoke
there was
more.
one more that needed to be...
That was
Do you have more points? More points to cover, that is. Washington, D.C.
the president? Was it the president?
That was the president, it looks like. It was a Washington, D.C. area code.
Obama's like, what
You
up?
don't have my vote.
Your plane will be waiting for you, sir.
Yeah.
This was Bill, right? The second.
No, the second person, you got to go review the tape, buddy.
You
I can't remember now.
too much time. Don't be putting little.
So we had Crop, and then we had.
I gotta
Oh, you
shut
mean
my
the
phone off,
third
man.
person overall? Sorry, Soul. Yeah. So the third one's going to be Bill Johnson, but he's going to email you what he wants it to say, probably.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's usually because they use
I'll be
fake
there.
names in the chat room a lot of times.
Voila. I'll hold on to this,
And then-
it's ready to be.
But I'm going to
signed.
tell you right now, Dabs McDuck is going to try to sneak in there and get a signed pack from you.
I see.
He did not win, so don't.
He didn't want, but he
don't
was the one that
respect
really wanted
He
it.
wanted it.
He was
He
the one
was
that
the
was
one
like,
who brought it up.
oh, please.
He's the one who brought it up. But
Sabs McDuck, you say.
I think he would pay for it.
he probably would.
He probably would.
Is this a moneyed man?
You
shit's
know,
hot right now.
the McDucks are moneyed people.
A
If you think
McDuck's
of Scrooge, they're a moneyed family.
How coincidental, unbelievable he has that name.
Right on. Well, so did you cover everything you wanted to cover?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's it. All
Yeah,
right,
man,
well,
I just want to keep it real and honest and let people have at least a basic concept of how to get what they're after when they go out.
yeah, say it in the mic. I can't read your lips. You don't have to put headphones on. Just say it in the mic.
Oh, I thought he was
confused.
talking to me. You cut me off in mid.
Sorry, he was
phrase.
gesturing to me.
No, I just want to make sure people have a reasonably sound basis to pick the seeds on in the first place, because maybe I'm wrong. I observe a lot of chatter that sounds like, why'd you pick that? I don't understand your reasoning.
It would be cool to
And
get
maybe
someone.
can make a little more sound decisions in their choices of seeds.
It would be cool to get someone to email or call in explaining that perspective. I mean, I can guess at it. I think everyone wants to be the next big breeder, so they want the next big thing.
Yeah.
So they have to find that unique gem that's only theirs, and then they work a line off it, right? I think is a part
That's
of
what I said, is if you have in your mind the intention to have a lot of variety for a particular reason, then by all means you should be doing that. But it may, I think we may agree that that wouldn't be the majority of the seed buyers out there that are on these, hunts to become the next breeder and find the next.
I don't know. What do you think, Dunsky?
Every single
About
seed
what?
buyer, would you say out of every 100 guys out there that buy seeds, 5 of them want to be a breeder? And
How
the
many
rest
of them want
have
to hunt
some
phenos?
goal?
What percentage do you think is pheno hunting out there, and what percentage is trying to get something reliable?
Back to your piece.
The funny part is I think
Got
at
that
this point more people
flame.
pheno hunting because they don't even know what they want.
Yeah,
People
you have
are-
to, that's the first thing to ask yourself. What am I hunting for? What is it that
And
I'm
I think,
seeking?
and then those pheno hunters are probably like broken down into less categories, like as far as serious and just because they don't even know that they don't even know they're pheno
If it's a
just
game, it's a
different.
hobby, it's an adventure, a journey.
there's a few people
that's
that are doing it
more
more.
power to you. Enjoy that journey.
I think as long as you put something out with the intentions of people understanding that there's living material and
Explain in the description of the
there's a-
seed.
a
This is
range.
what we crossed and why. Here's what you can expect. At least that much.
Matt Riot says 2% are pheno hunting for actual breeding, 90% are looking for a keeper to make simple crosses, and 8% are just growing, he thinks, of his seed buying.
Well, he's had some experience selling seeds, and he's got pulse on the online community, socially active, and he probably...
He's also snarky.
Well,
he could
there you
be
go.
being a little extra
I
snark
don't want
in there.
to, I'm not a negative guy. I don't say stuff like that.
No, that's why I get to say it. You don't get to say it. You don't have to say it, so I can say it.
All right. I'm not a party to it.
No, that's me saying that, not Mr. Soul saying that, Matt.
I'm not like that.
And I mean, at what point? See, he laughed at it. So at what point?
I know he's got a sense of humor.
At what point is it important to, do you think, introduce genetic diversity? At what point do you think, that's the balance against stability, right? You don't want homogenous. It would be. We would all agree, as much as we love the genius bud, it would be a shame if it was the only pot in the world, right? We can all agree on that.
Right. I like variety as much as the next person, and when you desire something different and you ask yourself, I've already grown this strain or that strain, and I've devoted some time to that and seen what I can do with it and reached its potential, I'm happy with it or whatever, but I'm open for a new challenge. I want to try something different. What in your mind would you like to try that might be different, or would you like to look through a catalog of things that already exist that you might be able to choose from that you would say, hey, I could go to that and grow that next? I think it would take a long time for anybody to seriously go through all of the things that are available and see what they are like, to have experienced the palates of how do you know a complex ice cream like Cherry Garcia if you've never had chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry on their own as a kid,
Sure.
So there's a sense of build your base and understand. It's like becoming a musician, learn some basic fundamentals and build from there before you start to try to compose an opera or a Bach concerto. So everything is a microcosm of everything else. I've made a few things, I've taken a few things in my life from start to finish and felt that I successfully finished something that I started. Every single time as I look back, it was a microcosm of every other one. The same principles apply every time.
Sure. And one thing that you had mentioned before that way kind of earlier in the conversation that just coming back to me now is, what was the breeder's intention and did their offspring produce what they were looking for? It's curious to me because more often than not, that's how you tell a good breeder, right? But then you have these anomalies. I think Big Buddy's lavender, right? There's this lavender that Soma didn't like. To me, this is the far superior lavender cut that's out there, and Soma had rejected it as one he didn't like. It didn't represent what he was going for.
Yeah.
So
of course, everything is, like I said earlier, there's a genetic lottery going on. There's these numbers being spit out, and sometimes looks are conceiving. Sometimes looks are conceiving if the right people look at each other. Sometimes looks are deceiving because there have been many cases where there have been people who have taken our view of science and understanding of the world in a huge leap. Like Newton was a very sickly child, could have been culled early too on looks or something, but it eventually became an incredible kid. And it doesn't depend sometimes that the parents are of some noble breeding or anything. There was a kid from the ghettos of London who became what was the guy, just Faraday. Before Maxwell could actually put it into mathematical expression. This kid never studied enough mathematics, but he knew enough about it and took enough experimentation and shared that knowledge with the person who could stand on his shoulders and put that into terms that he could write down and make it understandable to everyone in the scientific community. So that kid, he would never have been expected from, look at his mom and his dad. Are they going to produce a scientific genius? Ha, 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 you laugh down your sleeve. But it happens. But do you expect that to happen
every time?
Very often.
More often than not?
No, that's going to be the exception to the rule, isn't it? Exceptional people are few and far between by definition. What makes them exceptional?
Exactly. They can't be common.
They're not common.
An exceptional herb can't be common, otherwise it wouldn't be exceptional.
Bingo. So if that's what your game is, by all means, go, man, go. I hope you find something. I'm always happy to see somebody do something and make a success out of it and get a gratification out of their life. There was a certain someone I was talking to earlier that it was in the next door where I was having lunch, guy at the bar. I was saying, at the moment you stop competing with whomever you imagine you're competing with in whatever genre you're in, it's still that microcosm idea that I said a moment ago. The moment you let go of that and realize, I'm not competing with anybody, there's no pecking order here, I'm going to tell the guy who I admire him, my competitor that I used to think was my competitor. The minute you start embracing everybody else and saying, I love your work, man, you're freaking great. All of a sudden, you feel free to be so creative that you rise to that same level, and they start looking at you like, "What are you talking about? You're our colleague. You're the same.
You're not just this fanboy anymore."
No, man. So that's how you overcome that. You can't keep putting things on a pedestal, and just accept that. Hey, I'm not going to think of this as a competition. I do something entirely unique and different from everybody else, and so do they. And we're all to be appreciated for our uniqueness, right?
So that kind of brings up an interesting topic too. Like, what's your advice now to, let's say, someone does want to become a breeder and wants to go about it the right way, right? Like they want to be able to win the respect of the people they admire. Maybe they're listening and admiring you right now.
Here's the thing I would say: the most basic thing is have an idea in mind of a goal that you're trying to accomplish, and on the steps that you take to getting there, vary only one thing at a time so that you'll know what caused the difference that you saw in that cross. And if you try to complicate that too much by adding too many things at the same time, you can't be sure what caused the result that you got, bad or good. So how can you have any control and move forward if you don't have any your hands aren't on the handles, you know what I mean? So keep it really simple. Don't work with a million different things. I had at my disposal in the beginning of my career access to every strain that Super Sativa Seed Club sold, and I was their national distributor in the United States for about 4 years, and during that time I didn't grow their entire catalog, and that was like 39 strains. You got kids who have 39 strains of clones in their closet.
Sure.
So how can you know what the hell you're doing if you confuse it's too many chefs spoil the pot type of situation. So keep it simple and try to figure out what caused the things that you saw happen by having experiments that don't vary more than one thing at a time. And in fact, what I do, here's an interesting little tip I can give breeders, that say you have a female and you cross it to a sativa male, cross it also to an indica male, and then watch what the two different progenies do. Then you're going to see what's the influence of those two fathers, because the mother didn't vary, and you'll also see what was the thing that is the common denominator between the two that the mother contributed, and such things like that. And that's how you learn the traits of the breeding stock that you're starting from. And once you can feel confident that, like, I know what this one will do if I cross it to something, it adds this or that, and then you can make intelligent choices by saying, so I'll do this with the other one. Those two things go together and make sense to get the goal that I'm looking for. As long as you keep that kind of a simple philosophy of those few things, I'll shut up now because I think I've said enough. You can't go wrong. Expand on that on your own.
Well, I think that's a great answer, and it almost begs the question of, or it's not even a question, right? The hard part then becomes, okay, you do your crosses and you explore this one male and this one female, and like, where do you get the self-control then to say, like, I should keep looking because I'm only looking at two here, right? It is a numbers game.
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to make my ideal cross, maybe I need to look at more than 2 plants, 3 plants, 4 plants.
Of course, but you're eliminating them one at a time by varying only one variable at a time. And if you say, yeah, I see what that does and I don't want that, then you stop using it, right? And you then make an adjustment in your plan.
So do you feel that, you form the intention before you've even really started working with any of these like before you start your breeding project, you have your intention, or you have your mother or you have your father and you say, okay, I know what the constraints of this one are. Mm-hmm. I like this about it. I want to refine this. Or are you going in saying, I want a plant that's like this. What's going to make this happen for me?
A lot of the times at the moment we have breeding stock that are females that you wouldn't say, okay, that plant on its own has commercial viability. I would want to grow a whole room of those to make money. What we have there are plants that pass on certain important traits reliably that I will then say, oh, okay, if I want the colas to stay stocky and shorter and finish faster, I'll use this female, and I also want something in the terp profile from, maybe I'm mixing Durban male or something to that, and it's intelligently chosen because I know that they'll come together in a reliable way. Is that the question?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
how do you choose?
Yeah,
blending them together, and isn't there? What if there isn't enough genetic diversity that from where your starting point where you're going to go. Listen,
And once you've
as an
locked in-
example, Mitch, my two females, Princess and Genius, are sisters of each other, yet I have a whole seed line, the Apollo line and the Cinderella, that are notably different from each other. And that's enough genetic variety in two sisters that were seeds that came out of the same bud. Imagine now you're mixing a couple of different varieties. You've got more than enough little colors on your palette there to paint whatever you like, I think, and you'll get there. I saw something
And what
that
are
I'd
you
love
doing-
everybody to know about if I can expand for a
Please.
second. This isn't a plug for Netflix, but there's a show on there right now called How to Grow a Planet. Have you looked at that? There's a Scottish guy, Ian Stewart, who is a professor of geology, and he's explaining how the Earth was formed and how plants influenced even the land formation and the atmosphere itself. It's absolutely fascinating, and there's a place 1,500 kilometers off the shore of Australia that is called New Caledonia, and that is the oldest existing piece of the original landmass that they called Pangaea, right? And there are only 2 species of plant on there, and they come from 160 million years ago. All plants on the entire planet evolved from either one or the other of those 2, and flowers didn't even exist at that time. They were yet to evolve. So from a species of fern, and the other one were conifers, everything on the entire planet came from that. So the right kinds of intelligent combinations can bring out, the mutations that are in there and so on. So I don't know the limits to that, really. If you use that as an example, it seems infinite, doesn't it?
Right, like off of anyone's strain.
But I
you
know
could
from
produce
my own
anything.
experience that I've had more than enough variety in the results that I'm getting from only mixing a few things. And yet, look at the reputation of our company. We've been able to put out very stable, high yielding and high potency plants that people love and so on. And I think that that's not an accident. We're trying to do that.
And so now, go back to the breeding process, right? So like you've identified this structure, let's say, and you want to pair it with this terpene profile.
Yeah.
Right, let's say you've got that locked in. Now you want to make it easy to trim. Let's say it's super leafy. Or at what stage in the process are you kind of trying to refine a trait
totally.
like that?
I would say that then you have, when you reach that point where it's just, now you're talking about some of the females, or say a large percentage of the females, are leafier than you would like, right? I would start then, now, from the seed that female was grown, or females were grown in that generation, look for any that are less leafy. Look for any opportunity where you can then, within that generation, find two F1s that you're going to make an F2 generation from, that, and so on and so on. Keep working on the less leaf, but do it in that same line rather than pick up some male from a dissimilar strain or something, because then you risk losing those other traits that you have locked in.
So, and then my question kind of to follow up on that is like, how far do you feel like you need to work that?
It depends on how the
line
results
to
start
lock
coming.
those
I mean,
traits?
they could come rapidly, or they may
Or you
take
can
more
have a hard
time.
time, yeah.
You don't know that in the outset. That's why you just you do it until you see, damn, this generation's got it. Then I say, don't breed further, because you risk
So stop there.
losing
Don't-
it. Yeah.
right.
If you have a mother and father now, and I would never call it either of them before I had grown out the seeds and see what the results are, obviously. And when you get a generation that now, wow, that's a reliable, like our Apollo 11 is a very reliable, like, wow, those plants are all a great combination of the best of Princess and Genius together. And that was created by, using Genius as the mother and taking the Cinderella 99 male that we like and using that one. And somehow that it really made a good blend, because by that point you're locking in some things that aren't varying that much. Your gene pool at that point, the combinations aren't going to be that radically different.
Sure, you're starting to narrow down the possibility.
Yeah, and we just did the Genius with the C99 Haze, C99 Super Silver Haze, and check out our Instagram feed on those. And we did that with Princess and C99 as well. And they just grew into these very vigorous, bigger versions of each of those different, like Princess, Cinderella 99, and Genius. And you could always see that the mother contribution that we always reliably see was there, and then these interesting new things that were brought in by that male. And we like them a lot. So They're a little more variable than we would really like. We'll probably do another generation where we refine to the ones that we prefer.
Sure.
And when we get it to like 2 phenos or lock it into around 2 phenos. I mean, I think that's already pretty stable, and that's what I'd be satisfied with in a pack of seeds.
So 2 phenos, you feel you're not looking for homogeneous
No, I mean,
across
you're going
12
to
seeds.
obviously have favorites. I mean,
Sure.
no matter how identical, you're going to always have one where like, damn, this one's just that little bit better.
Donsky, you have feedback on any of this? You know a thing or two about seeds and things like that.
Well, I think we all know that the thrill of the chase is kind of part of the deal. So, like,
Hey,
I'm not going to knock people for having unstable stuff when they put it out, because sometimes
as
there's
long
some
as
great
it's
stuff.
described as such.
But yeah, exactly. As long as you don't claim that this is going to be
They're all
exact.
going to look like
That's
the
why I
picture.
feel like why I feel like feminized always takes that risk, and autoflowers take a heavier. All those breeding techniques take a higher risk just because it's pretty obvious when they don't work. You're like, well, I had a male, so I don't know what you're
I
all
think the
female
risks.
talking
Of,
about.
I think
had
the
a male.
risks of going out on a limb and trying some of their more radical ideas, like the feminized seeds and stuff, is imagine you have a room that's for easy numbers, 10 by 10. You've got this 100 square feet of room. You fill that with enough seedlings that you, by the time they're 4 weeks old, have already found, any ones that are just not vigorous and growing very well, they're eliminated, and you may be down to 90, and then a week later they start sexing and you're pulling males out of there, and you get it down to the statistical 50 females. You've got more than enough females where you better start picking your very best out of those, and your room is ready for flowering. So why do you need to buy all female again? I'm sorry, I'm missing that. Did you think that the number that you could fill that space with of seedlings that were all female were going to then all mature in that space? Because they're
become
going to need
lazy, too.
substantially more room around them than the arrangement that you would put them in first. Like you group your seedlings together really close, and then they get bigger and expand the root into the
And you become lazy, and you don't look, and you think, oh damn, what the hell is this? And all of a sudden you have seeded weed, just the thing you're trying to avoid in the very first place, because the Hermes that popped up on the lower stem.
Oh
you
yeah,
know what I mean?
you
Somewhere
risk the Hermes with the feminized seeds.
Sure.
I would recommend, hey, if you insist on trying some feminized seeds, get them from the most reputable dealer that you can, who you've maybe heard that, yeah, man, those guys' seeds are always feminine. But when you
I'm sure he's in the chat room.
when your brother-in-law
Nice.
from down the street says, hey man, I got this pollen that came off of the Hermes and I crushed it. We got some seeds. These are going to be fem seeds. Why risk those when for what is an incredibly good bargain? You just buy the real thing from a reputable dealer.
There you go.
Sorry, I tried to take a really cool panorama
Are
shot
we gonna,
to get
I'd
Adam
have to
and
roll
Soul in
pretty
the same.
soon,
in the
unless
same
you guys
thing.
want
Did it
to
work?
extend this visit.
It
a
went
bit.
shit. It went shit.
No, we have a last little
Well,
update from
We got
previous guests.
we got to do another round of shout outs.
Another round of shout-outs.
Shout
You want
out.
to let this guy go?
Well,
Are you itching to hit the road, Mr. Soul?
No, I mean, I like hanging with you boys and everything, but if I'm going to sit here while you go through a routine or whatever, have I done my job? And,
Oh, you did your part. Yeah.
I hope everyone
You can
is
retire to the green room.
entertained and
We have 25
educated
minutes left.
to some degree.
Grab a-
And I
grab a
enjoyed
beer.
being here and sharing the good stuff with y'all.
Yeah, we always love we
guys are
love
great
having you here. We love when you share the good stuff too.
I'll hold these and wait for people to email me.
And I think we, like I said,
appropriate guys.
I think we have the makings of a classic
Guys,
episode
yeah.
here, if I had to guess. Judging by the viewership thus far, I've been looking at the analytics while we've been going. So,
Always a pleasure.
oh,
Thank
always.
you, sir.
Boys,
Thank you.
take care
Thank you.
now. I'm taking
Yeah, don't
this
forget
with
your
me.
huge bag of weed.
For dramatic effect.
Yeah, there's 219 grams in
219,
there.
219.
219 grams of weed there. Yeah, don't forget your glass either.
Oh, no, I gotta
All right, let's do
Quick shout-outs.
quick shout outs. I'm going to do, wait, actually, Mr. Soul, if you would sit there for 1 second so I can get a picture of you sitting on the mic. And then,
On the mic.
yeah, because I've been told I need to update our Instagram more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Listens when they ask, he listens.
Instagram problem.
Well, before anything, I want to do a shout-out to Hoodlam right now, live here downstairs in the basement. So
That's
if
looking good down
if you're
there.
local, this is your time to buy a jacket. Half price, close to it, and very limited because we're waiting for the next shipment to come in.
That's good
And
deals.
this is last year's gear, but it's like, brand new in the box.
Still looking hot.
Come on down to 2209 Welton. in the basement.
Shout out.
Yeah, come check out that basement. The basement's
Basement
looking
shout
real
out.
good
Basement-
downstairs.
basement
Basement shower. We didn't do one before. So
Get all looking fly for the winter time.
exactly perfect time. So swing on through today, tomorrow, next day. So it means Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Can I do shout outs? Way to grow.
Go for it. I need a beer.
Big shout out to Way to Grow, of course. And as we said before, they're doing another one of those ADS only specials. They have it right now on the PL Lights NXT 2 double-ended 1,000 watt. It's 120 volt or the 240 volt. The complete fixture there. Usually going to be $650. Going to be $415 for you if you just mention the Adam Dunn Show discount. And of course, the Phantom commercial double-ended open lighting system with the USB interface. That's the 277 volt 1,000 watt. MSRP on that one $589.99. We got that for you at $325. That's going to be at every one of the Way to Grow locations. Go there and of course mention the Adam Dunn Show discount and they will hook it up. So you can find out more about them and their regular sales over at waytogrow.net. And of course, big shout out to Incredibles Edibles, our favorite edibles, the world's favorite edibles, I think.
And also making some killer extracts, too.
Yeah, let's not forget Incredibles extracts. The orange cream soda, the flavor of the year, it seems.
I think so.
And available in their amazing Incredibles pen, what do they call it? It's great. We need more of them around. It's really like the best vape pen product I've seen on the market. And you can find more about them at iloveincredibles.com. That's iloveincredibles.com. And big shout out, of course, to Dark Horse Concentrates, Dark Horse Genetics.
Louder.
Am I real loud?
All of a sudden.
Oh, because I'm leaning in. I'm doing it well.
How's mine? Mine's fine.
Yeah.
Same as it was before.
For Dark Horse.
Dark Horse, there we
Same
go.
as
Just
it
for
was
Dark Horse
before.
gets loud.
Dramatic.
Dramatic.
And of course, Dark Horse Genetics now available all over Colorado, all over the internet, everywhere you want. Dark Horse Colorado, Dark Horse International, we're out there. And of course, Dark Horse Concentrates still kicking strong until things kick off for us while we prepare to transition to recreational at the end of the month. Of course, big shout out to Build the Soil, our favorite organic resource. The guys to supply your needs if you want to grow organic, if you want to go completely organic, if you want to add some organic stuff to your regimen, even if you just want to learn about it and make your decision based on the information. Great source of information over there at buildthesoil.com. Big shout out to Growstones. Mr. Soul, I'm going to ask you to do us one more favor and tell
Yes,
us,
sir.
because it's very awesome when we have a guest on who actually uses one of the products that we like to rep, so we can get kind of an
Grow
arbitrary.
Stones, yeah. Well, the Grow Stones reps are great reps, and they'll always take care of you. Make sure that you're, they're great communicators, and their product is amazing. I mentioned earlier the different sizes that are available and how it's all very lightweight. Takes the place of perlite and these types of things. I understand people are doing hydro grows with it and everything, with the larger chunks or whichever size works for that. But we use it for like the drainage level at the bottom 2 inches of a 20-gallon soil container, and then we have our own soil that we build, and in that, one of the 24 ingredients is, or a couple of them are 2 of the other different sizes of the Growstone products, which keeps the soil light, and we fill it with really good organic stuff that is fed with microbes and the enzymes and all the stuff that my partner is an absolute master of. If you're somebody who's going through all of the literature, and I guess currently there's a book called Teaming with Nutrients.
Yeah, Jeff Lowenfels.
Lowenfels.
We're getting
So
Jeff, right?
If you understand that kind of stuff, then you know where my partner's coming from.
Sure. And of course, if you're not into soil, you can go Veg and Bloom. Still works with the Grow Stones. Still plug and play. They're going to custom formulate it to your
Works in
water.
even easier, I'm sure.
It's soils. We only like easy stuff. Soil's really easy. Veg and Bloom's really easy. You don't even have the trouble of mixing and measuring. You kind of use the one-size-fits-all scoop on it. They're going to formulate it to your water. You don't have to play with pHing. You don't have to play with adjusting it to be right for your grow. They'll do that on their end, and then you don't have to worry about storing all that water, shipping all that water, paying for all that water to be shipped around in that jug. You just get it in powder form, dissolves with a little agitation pretty easily in your reservoir, and consistent large-scale results. That's what Veg and Bloom's all about. You can find out more at hydroponic-research.com, and of course, seeds here now.
Seeds here now.
Seeds here now.
Seeds here now.
Seedsherenow.com.
Seeds here now.
They were one of the original distributors of Brothers Grimm, of the Brothers
They
Grimm.
were our very first, in our comeback, 4/20/2016. Seeds here now was the first out of the gate, which was a major distributor. I'll also mention Rocky Mountain Seed Bank.
Good guys.
Great people here. People I thought it was great to have local, representation, as well as Seeds Here Now, which was meant to be our national distributor. There are other pockets now of our distributors who've been covering different states and so on in their own little niches that Seeds Here Now was unlikely to reach. So, yeah, I think it's starting to roll out, and now that we have international international representation with, principally with the puresativa.com people, and then from them a trickle down to
We should get Amit to sponsor the show.
International distributors that we're using.
Right? Pure Sativa? We should talk to Amit. Maybe.
They're good people.
Oh, yeah, I've been
Great people.
my first international. Is your first, or you're just? What?
Yeah, it was one of them.
Yeah, one of the everybody. When you're on with Pure Sativa, you're on. That's what they say.
Because with him, it's sort of. I don't know how that works. I hate to use the term trickle down. In fact, it has such a negative connotation in today's economy. Mitch is smiling.
It puts it out there, though. That's the point.
No, seriously.
But if you're domestic, of course, Seeds Here Now, and we're going to go September.
Yeah, they'll get you wherever you are if you reach out to them. I think that maybe they're not known enough to enough people, and they should get more advertisement. Like we're, letting people know. They said, if you wanted to. I get emails where can I get Cinderella 99?
Sure.
Have you not done any kind of a
Yeah, did you
I don't
Google
want
it?
to be rude to people and say such things, so I usually write back to them like either here's a link to our availability page with our distributors listed here. Somehow you found the email address without finding the availability page on our website, and just fired off an email before you really looked at the site, because the answer is right there.
And if you go over to Seeds Here Now, of course, for the rest of the month, 15% off any pack of Snow High, TH Seeds, Crockett Family Farms, Imperial Genetics. Spend over $150 and get a freebie by Ghost Genetics. Buy one, get one free on Dr. Blaze Seeds. Buy any 2 packs of Mosca Seeds and get a free 5-pack of Mosca Mix. Get a free 3 packs of Tester C with any purchase from La Plata Labs. And this past week, we had the TSK drop and the Ethos drop and the Canorado drop. The Relentless Genetics drop is coming up, just happened, and coming up there's Unknown Prophet, and hopefully something fresh from Archive. You can find that, and of course Brothers Grimm at seedsherenow.com. Okay, now I have done all the obligatory stuff. Do you want to bring in this guy here? This guy?
Yeah.
Do it.
The actually
Do it. I'm going to give up my seat because I'm going to go hang out with Sol before he leaves.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Giving up the seat.
Yes.
No.
You're giving him KTI seat?
Briefly. This is how people get breaks in the business, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's what they told me.
We have another Emmett in the house.
Read it. Do it.
All right. Hey, it's been real. Great. I'm
Emmett
glad we had the
Restoffer.
time to talk.
Of course.
Yes, of
See
course.
you guys again.
He's not
Someone's
running away.
gonna be
Mr. Soul's
classified.
not running away. Don't worry.
Yes, he is.
He's not.
Well, I'll hang for a bit.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we have Emmett in the house, updating us on
In the house.
exactly updating us. He's campaign coordinator for Denver Yes or 300, which is that's the latest, right? That's the latest.
That's correct.
Which is
Recreational. Well, it's public use. What's public consumption? How's it defined?
We want to say social consumption.
Social consumption. Okay.
It's about being able to consume together in social settings.
which is normal.
Exactly.
That's where most people use cannabis, right?
I mean, I'm personally an outcast, but most of you are.
Oh, we also got. Oh wait. Mr. Ben.
Oh,
This is my good friend, Ben Droz.
Bendros, yeah, everybody's friend. He's a man on the scene. Now you're bolo ties. Is that what the crazy thing says?
Yes.
Yellow
Hemp
bolo?
bolo ties.
Nice.
100% hemp cord.
Working it.
And that is YOLO Bolo. I wanted to take the bolo tie to the next level.
Taking it.
we love puns.
And, I said, you only live once, so let's wear a bolo tie.
Sure.
You know,
Why not?
let's do
I
it.
used to wear
And so-
bolos. I liked bolos. I had my little bolo time period where I thought that
Did
was
you?
Cool. Yeah.
You did the bolo thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I could see you doing
Went
bolos.
through bolos, pointing. I went to all sorts of
Sure, I could see you do that.
Do you want a bolo tie?
Are you bringing back the
Oh,
bolo?
yeah,
Dunn?
bring the bolo back, sure.
I,
Bring it back.
Bring your bolo back.
I have one. You can have one. I brought one for you.
Nice.
There you, it's all hemp. There you
Bring it
go.
back. I'm bringing
Do
it
it. Bring it back.
100% hemp cord.
I've got 3 of them.
See? Addictive.
One for every occasion.
Addictive.
I see that they're addictive.
Because it's good to have them interchangeable so that you can wear one for one reason and one for another. But I want to give this to you.
There you go, Adam.
There you go.
Bolo.
Bolo. It's bolo action.
Wow.
Thank you, sir.
That's.
It's the same one that I'm wearing right now.
There you go.
Similar.
Oh, yeah. We're killing it.
Now you're in there. Now you're a fashion template.
Check it out.
It's almost like you started a hemp clothing company now.
There you go. Boom. Bolos.
Bolo.
Bringing bolo
YOLO.
back.
YOLO bolo.
YOLO bolo.
So you clearly don't believe in reincarnation.
My other friend does fanny packs, so I'm killing it right now. I'm going to have bolos and fanny packs.
Put yourself in a
Because then
corner,
it would,
man.
then you couldn't say YOLO, right?
So as far as I just, YOLO is the new Carpe Diem. And so we just need to, you only live once. So wear a bolo tie, make it a hemp one, wear hemp, eat hemp. You only live once, so you should eat hemp, eat more hemp. So, but those bolo ties, we're going to be making them. They are available on yolobolo.com. But we're going to be having them here around Denver.
Titanium tips would be nice.
Oh, so you get dabber tips? Ooh.
Wow.
Wow.
The
Right
creativity
there.
doesn't
That
stop.
one was free, but the next one, 10%.
That's the concept of YOLO Bolo.
Yeah.
We're gonna start working on. We've been working on roach clip tips,
Yeah.
but dab tips I think are something I'm going to look into.
It's clutch, definitely.
Well,
And that's something we could have more of, be more practical if we had social use, right?
That's right.
Is there an unsparked joint there? Can someone pass that over
I
here?
believe there is.
Take
That
care
looks
of that.
beautiful. You want to dip it in there?
Oh, we could dip it in there, but that would be a
That'd
little
be a little
silly.
intense.
That would be a little silly. So tell us kind of like the ins and outs of 300, what that means for those of us in Colorado, what we got to do to make sure that we can actually not hide like criminals anymore.
Thank you. This opportunity is great. I got to give you the scoop on this. Initiative 300, I think, has been a long time in the making, really ever since Amendment 64. The next question that came after Colorado legalized marijuana was, where are we going to consume it? Some of us, I'll consume it anywhere, just about, with some discretion. There's a matter of respect that's involved. We don't want folks to be exposed to secondhand smoke if they really don't want to. This proposal, I think, has been a really good proposal for the community to consider this and to have some things in place so people will not be breathing marijuana if they don't want to.
So how do you make that concession? How do you assure that that's in there?
Much like a cabaret license or a liquor license, a business can apply for its permit, designate the area, and at that point, the requirement is that you check IDs, so it's 21 plus. We do have to live with an indoor smoking ban, so we're looking at a lot of vaporization for indoor options, but an outdoor option is also available with this permit.
Sure, so like our outdoor area.
That's right. I could really envision that here, and I can even tell you that I've been talking to someone on the 5 Points Business Association board, and they do have an interest in at least learning about it and talking about it. And I think Sohai perhaps could be one entity.
Poster children.
Yeah, give it
Do
a
it.
shot.
Yeah.
Let's be role models.
Do it. Let's do it.
Do it. Let's do it. Where do we sign up? How do we do that? How would we do that? If we say, okay, we want Sohai to sort of be a pioneer, we want to set an example, we want to begin this dialogue with our business community, how do we do that?
Well, thank you for already signing up. We've got Sohai signed on as an official supporter. That's great. We're with
Way to wield that pen,
yeah.
Dunsky.
We got 150 businesses now signed up, and honestly, I think we could get it up to 500 businesses. That's just what we've been able to do with making phone calls and sending out emails, and that's what's come back to us. And I know the more we talk about it, the support is out there, and I really believe a majority of Denver will support this.
Now, is there a sense of where the tipping point is? Like, where do we have to be for this to kind of be a set fate?
I think being good role models is also a big part of this. A lot of people who signed this petition, believe it or not, they signed it and they don't like marijuana. They signed it because it made sense to them that if we give adults somewhere to go, some place like Sohai where they could go and socialize and use cannabis, they may not be smoking it on the sidewalk like I am. So there is some logic here, whether or not you like marijuana or you don't like it. There's a common ground, and I think that's what we found. So that is that tipping point, because we're we want to do events. We are doing them. There's a gray area, and I think that we want to be legitimate. There is a subculture, but we want to know that we are equal. We're on fair standing with alcohol, for example, because I can go right next door, get wasted. In fact, I might later. And that's perfectly legal. And I can walk right out of that place, and that's perfectly legal. And I can be hammered. I can be wasted. But to smoke a joint, yeah.
It was like the other day when we went go-karting. We were like, they would like cut your strap, cut your...
Couldn't go-kart anymore
if you had
once.
one beer, you couldn't go-kart anymore.
wow.
And I was like, that's kind of crazy because like after you go-kart and they cut your thing off, they let you drink as fucking much as you want and get in your car and drive
go
out
home.
there
Yeah,
and
yeah.
drive into the real world. It is not surrounded by like barriers and dudes with fucking
Yep.
flags and everything, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of weird. Double standard there, buddy.
It's so unfortunate that is what so many
But they were
people
cool
do.
about us smoking outside, and nobody cared. So that was cool. Compared to like,
I think we're moving in the right direction. I really do. I think it's silly how much we've tried to police other people's behavior and try to judge them and say, you can't do that.
well, yeah, no. I think when they're going to look back in a few years and go like, what? How did we even stop? Think we were going to stop
Yep.
people from doing that? You know, because it's like New York. New York's like the place where it's always been really, really extreme. Yet get enough people in enough places, and you'll start smelling weed. You know what I mean? It was like it wasn't.
No one's going to try to even do anything about
freaking
it.
out or anything. It was like, okay, but we have enough of us around. Let's smoke weed. You know,
It's
what I
like
mean?
you have the excuse. There's 200 people here. There's an excuse not to do anything.
Compared to like when there's like 3 of you or 5 of you, it's a little
Then
bit
you're
more,
you definitely
like,
getting
"Ooh,
shit."
You're getting checked out. But,
So-
then but if you do, and you're like just like 20 of you or something like that, or 50, then all of a sudden it's like, boom, the weed
Power
goes-
in numbers.
Yeah, and I think that's the same with everything. Where
Yep.
you know enough places do the same thing.
So how would this proposal work for, say, like a larger event, like obviously this would allow for something on the regular. People could gather, smoke, consume.
Yep.
But obviously this isn't thousands of people aren't going to fit in so high.
Yeah.
So what would it be for something like if someone wanted to rent a venue that, say, didn't have smoking events there most of the year? Would there be an allowance for that? Would
Yeah,
there be
that's a
something?
great question. Yes, there's an ability to pull that off. So our proposal, I like to say on one hand, it's really restrictive because it has this neighborhood support component. So what that's going to require this event venue to do is to talk to their neighbors and make sure they're cool with it, or to talk to them about how can they be cool with it. What do we need to add? Some fencing here or something like that.
Sure.
But then on the other hand, this proposal allows for a real wide open opportunity of experimentation because it could be any type of venue.
That's what I love.
We
about
haven't restricted it at all.
I like that.
You don't even have to be a private club. You could be. There could be private clubs.
Sure,
which
there's
would be
nothing
pretty
preventing
cool.
that from happening.
Nothing at all. And that's how we're going to be able to.
Now, is there any like pre-existing like clean air restrictions or things
Yep.
of that nature that would like
Everything.
you can't smoke in a restaurant, right? So you can't smoke cannabis in a
Yes.
restaurant, I'd assume.
I'm so glad we're going into these details because this has
That's what
been.
we do.
Yeah, the difficult thing for us has been
Mitch is here.
clearing up misconceptions. Because one thing this won't do, a couple things it won't do, it's not going to make it legal to smoke pot on the sidewalk. The media will tell people otherwise. They think this is flip the switch and now pot can be smoked everywhere.
But that's not it.
Nope.
It's
Nope.
social use, not public use.
Exactly. Great clarification. And then the other thing it won't do is allow widespread smoking indoors either. So the smoking indoors would be very limited because they'd have to comply with the Clean Indoor Air Act, which would be private clubs.
So you need certain ventilation, private clubs, things of that nature.
Yes, there are some other hoops to jump through if you're going to go to that point. What I think will be more common is places that will comply with the Clean Indoor Air Act and use e-nails. E-nails don't require combustion. So my understanding is that smoking requires combustion, a flame usually to spark that combustion. An e-nail is our alternative. And so
Sublimation.
I think that's a pretty cool wave of the future. And just for the record, a majority of Colorado supports the Clean Indoor Air Act, actually. So that, and if a majority of Colorado supports Amendment 64, that's kind of a interesting dynamic.
Sure,
I think if
obviously
you have
there's no
like-
conflict in people's minds.
And
Absolutely.
if you have like almost minimal ventilation and you have dabs, you're good. Like
Yep.
with weed, you need a lot more. Like you need ventilation.
Sure.
With dabs, you can pretty much have just general air movement,
Yep.
and you'd be talking about like, oh, okay, it's pretty comfortable here. Nobody seems to be smelling anything. You know, it's like, no, you know, you have one glade in the building, it would kill all the smell of it. You know, dab.
Yep. And another thing is, these places, you're going to know what it is. You're not going to walk in and all of a sudden smell marijuana, and you weren't wanting to smell marijuana.
So would they have to indicate that with a sign of some sort on the door, or would that just be...
That's correct. There is a requirement. When you apply for the permit, there's a number of things, very common sense things that are not difficult, but do, I think, reinforce a responsibility. So signage on the front door is one of those things, and also it says 21 plus very clearly.
Now, that signage obviously not totally required for alcohol. It doesn't, you don't say we serve booze here. You know it's a bar, right? Like
I think they do. When you go in, there's a little plaque somewhere that
Is there?
says birth defects and bullshit on it.
I think they've been
That's
able to hide
California
it
for sure.
fairly well. They at least have to have, depending on whether or not they serve food and what a majority of their revenue is, they have to at least maintain 21 plus if a majority of the revenue is alcohol.
Yeah.
I believe. But I don't know about the signage there. So, yeah, this is more restrictive than alcohol. And unfortunately, we have to kind of wrestle our way
Well, it's a bit more
through.
conscientious, you could even say, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a more respectful of the people who aren't into it because,
Exactly.
I mean, you're less likely to walk into a place where people are drinking alcohol and have it affect you in any way, right?
Yep.
Unless they're like
Yep.
splashing it around and it's landing in your throat. But it kind of like
Yep.
makes those boundaries clear.
There are people that just genuinely don't want to be around marijuana, but they're okay with supporting it for us that do. And that's a really critical talking point about this issue. It's not an issue of do you like marijuana or not.
Now, I remember around A64 when people were talking about bars and such, part of the conversation about consumption came about public intoxication afterwards, right? Like, oh, what are people are going to drive home from there? How are they going to drive home from there? Does that become part of the discussion for you guys, or people seem to have figured it out by now?
Absolutely. It's a part of the
Uber's
discussion.
existed for a while.
Yep. I think, well, Denver, for example, also is, I don't know exactly where we're at on the list, but we're one of the cities with the highest densities of alcohol distributors, whether it's a brewery or a bar or a liquor store. Very, very high percentage.
Oh, yeah, any corner.
And DUIs have been going up in the last few years, is my understanding. We have an issue with alcohol DUIs. It's some years we get a hang of it, some years we don't. And it's really just, I think it's more cultural. It doesn't really matter how much enforcement you do. We have to tell our friends at the bar, hey, man, don't drive. We know friends have to look out for each other and people have to be responsible themselves. Same thing with marijuana, but it's a different scale. Because all the time I also hear a lot of people say they've been smoking marijuana for 30, 40 years and they've been driving every day too.
Of course. Oh, yeah, we already know that the driving side is like total bullshit.
It's a bunk thing.
Like when it comes to like, really? You mean drive slower,
Yep.
miss more exits, and
Certainly has the commutes gotten longer. More stone drivers means a longer commute, that's for sure.
could increase traffic a little bit, but
No,
way
if,
safer.
if you know you're at your limit, obviously, wait. Sober
It's
up.
always like and it's only people who smoke for the first time ever that get really spun out like that. You know?
That's right. And I think these businesses, another requirement in there is that they do have to provide a plan for people that need to leave and are intoxicated. So usually that'll just be a partnership with Uber or Lyft, and you've already seen them doing that with the 420 rally.
Sure.
So you can get a discounted ride and incentivize people to call Uber or Lyft.
So it looks like our 5 o'clock meeting just walked in, so we're going to have to wrap.
Woohoo.
Mr. Soul's about to head out. Thank you, sir.
Yolo Bolo in the house.
Yola Bolo in the house. Social usage, Denver people, Colorado people support it. I got news on the outgo. This just came up on my feed. New Jersey marijuana legalization bill would treat weed like tobacco. Proposed law would allow New Jersey residents with prior pot possession arrest to apply for record expungement too. So this is A4193. It just hit the was proposed today. I'll see if I can get some more info on it for next week. But yeah, the bill aims to treat marijuana sales similar to cigarettes or other tobacco products, with sales prohibited to persons under 19, and you would basically buy herb right at a convenience store. So we'll get some more info on this for next week.
Joyzy style.
Joyzy style for
Dropped
sure.
off by a trash truck every morning. Hey,
All
taking
right.
my weed.
I'm gonna have to switch seats with you so I can.
All right. Thank
seal
you for
the
having
deal
me
over
on.
here.
And
Yeah,
just a
thanks for-
reminder, Initiative 300 is at socialuse.org. We would love for you all to sign up and get involved in our historic campaign.
socialuse.org.
And thank you so much for having me as well. And
Yes.
thank you, Emmett, for all your great work, because this is so important.
And Ben takes lots of photos and gets lots of cool photos out there. So you have a site for that? You have a what's your photo site?
Absolutely. My my photo website is just, my name is bendrose.com. My photo site is bendrose.smugmug.com/hemp. and then you can see a lot of hemp photos that I've been taking in hemp fields in Tennessee, Kentucky, and right here in Colorado.
Nice.
Right on. You do final shout-outs? Final shout-outs?
Final shout out. Well, big shout out to KTI for making it up here with his hand.
Yeah.
Can't even plug a plug in now. He's so useless.
Yep.
We're
We're going to get him robot hands, though.
Robot hands coming your way.
Not tomorrow. Though.
Big shout out to Cece who just took off, I think, to go pick up Nick. Big shout out to little Nick, who's loving school. Big shout out to Ace down at the farm. We're going to have to see Greg Allman this weekend.
Cool.
Hook him up with some edibles and some sativa, he said. Maybe I should talk to Mr. Soul.
Yeah, there you go.
Get some sativa. Need some sativa. Yeah, thanks to everybody who listened to the show.
Yeah, of course, much love to my beautiful wife, Reese. Little kiddo Farron. We got parents coming to town if they're listening for some amazing reason. Hey, Mom and Dad. Thanks for listening. Mr. Soul for coming through. And we'll catch you guys next week.
Peace.
Later.
Peace. Yeah, so much. Short and sweet, sorry.
I got the box of shirts too. We appreciate it so much.
Double.